across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ah, there you are. Well, because it's you, I thought I'd dress up. I wore a tie tonight, just especially for you. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. It's your show too, so get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, September the 24th. Here's what's coming up. Disappointingly untough Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood admits that it wasn't a good look as Britain flew 47 deportees back to Romania. Murderers, rapists, thieves and all manner of serious, dangerous criminals, wait for it, all paid £2,000 each in return for agreeing to board the plane. Good that we kick these low-life visa breachers out, but why the hell are we handing them vast amounts of cash to leave? That's your cash, my cash, taxpayers' cash. 03444991000. Still, with the madness of the migrant crisis and the outrageous cost to my taxpayers, shock as it is revealed that the Home Office is funding millions of pounds worth of taxi fares for asylum seekers to see doctors. Thousands of journeys of hundreds of miles costing hundreds of pounds a time because under current ridiculous rules they're not permitted to take the train. One cab firm is on a staggering £350,000 a month Home Office contract. Even the migrants think this scandalous waste is crazy. Do you? 03444991000. Meanwhile, with the total returns to France under the ludicrous one-in, one-out scheme now standing at an astronomical 4, and the Home Office stymied by yet another successful modern slavery challenge today, the maths got even worse earlier when the first 3 swapper foreigner migrants arrived here from across the Channel. So that adds up to Britain's illegal migrant population reduced by a whole 1. Pass the champagne. 03444991000. Also tonight, the trouble with Morgan McSweeny, Starmer's beleaguered chief of staff, staring into the abyss amid allegations that he flagrantly broke the law by hiding donations to a shady think tank called Labour Together, which was actually secretly working to ditch the disastrous Jeremy Corbyn and install Keir Starmer as Labour leader. As he battles to keep his job, McSweeny was hit with terrible news today when the Prime Minister declared full confidence in him, just as he did Angela Rayner, just as he did Peter Mandelson. For whom does the bell toll, Morgan? It tolls for you. 03444991000. In other news, 2 tales of alleged favouritism towards Muslims. After I spoke to a protester yesterday, questions are being asked about why the local council completely ignored an impassioned campaign to stop the construction of a mega mosque in a quiet rural area in Cumbria near the Lake District. And charges of 2-tier justice are being levelled after a guy who repeatedly slashed a knife at a Quran-burning demonstrator in London and viciously kicked him to the ground was spared jail. Free Speech Union Chief Toby Young slammed the lenient sentence for sending, and I quote, a green light to any Muslim who wants to enforce an Islamic blasphemy by taking the law into their own hands. Is he right? 03444991000. On a lighter note, hilarious trouble at sea as doom goblin Greta Thunberg's second mercy cruise to Gaza falls apart at the seams, with the Muslim contingent taking exception to the LGBTQ crew. Distraught that her Islamic chums are not quite as liberal about gay rights as she'd like them to be, poor Greta has renounced her captaincy of the Ship of Fools. What a shame. 03444991000. And finally, I hate this expression, but boy oh boy is Nigel Farage living rent-free in the mainly empty heads of Keir Starmer and Lib Dem loser Ed Davey, who mentioned the Reform leader 33 times in his dozy speech at his puny party's conference in Bournemouth. Why are this preposterous pair of prats so obsessed with Mr Farage? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And I'm very pleased, he's just the man, actually. For the first hour, I'm going to be joined by the director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks for having me, Kev. I feel very underdressed, not wearing a tie.
Yeah, come on. We've got a sartorial code here, you know. Next time. Might be with dinner suits next time, bow ties, the lot, yeah? I had to wear it for this lunch, so I thought I'd keep it on. Why not? Now, as I say, you're just the man for this first 60 minutes because nearly all the stories concern the migrant crisis, and that's not just because you're here. This seems to be day in, day out. We are confronted with the escalating insanity of this mad migrant crisis. So first up, let's talk about, let's give credit to ITV News here. They're the first media outlet to board a deportation plane. This was a plane returning 47, they're called FNOs, Foreign National Offenders. These are immigrants who have committed serious crimes, and we're talking about murderers, rapists, violent criminals, gun criminals, gangsters, serious, dangerous criminals. ITV got onto this plane. 47 of these people were being flown back to Romania, their home country. To get them to the airport, Robert, it took each one of them, not only to get them to the airport, but also on the plane, had to have 3 Home Office guards, security people with them. So altogether, apparently, it took 100 staff to get all of them to the airport. And then each one of these 47 had 3 escorts, security escorts from the Home Office with them on this plane. So the cost is astronomical. But it gets worse. On the plane, each one of these, fiends, monsters, was handed a cash card, £2,000 each, for them to cash when they got to Romania, present from us, from British taxpayers. This is to encourage them to go back. So in order to get them to agree to be deported, we gave them £2,000 each. Shabana Mahmood later said, well, it's not a good look out of context. It's not a good look at all, Shabana, never mind out of context. She says this is actually cheaper than keeping them in prison or letting them stick around to fight their cases to stay. My contention would be just deport them and don't give them £2,000. This is absolutely ludicrous. It's deranged. Before we get your comments on this, Robert, let's have a look at some of ITV News' excellent report. Well, first of all, let's have a look at these people being deported on the plane. Let's have a look.
Capture compliant migrants being given bank cards preloaded with money, up to £2,000 each, to encourage and aid their resettlement in Romania.
Just to remind you, those people receiving your money, £2,000 each, are murderers, are rapists, are drug dealers, are gun criminals. Really, really serious criminals. £2,000 each. Later, in fairness, Shabana Mahmood, the new tough-talking, tough as nails, hard-talking, hard as nails, Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, she gave an interview in which she said, out of context, this is not a good look, as I just said. Never mind out of context, Shabs. Let's have a look at what the Home Secretary had to say.
Well, look, I think out of context, obviously, it's not great. It doesn't look good. But the reality is that a voluntary removal is actually cheaper for the British taxpayer. So it has long been the case, certainly since 2006, that we do offer financial packages as an incentive to people to drop their claims, to drop the attempts that they will make to try and stay within our country and to board a flight and to leave.
Well, you know, that's a case, fair enough. But every person in this country, well, you and me definitely, but I would say that every British citizen, knowing that their tax money is being spent on paying murderers and rapists £2,000 to leave the country, will say, never mind it being a good look a bad look out of context. It's a bad look totally. And if we're a nation that can't deport murderers and rapists, dangerous criminals, without giving them money, what kind of a nation are we?
This is honestly an absolutely farcical story, and I'm actually surprised in that footage we weren't seeing them in a first-class lounge with their feet up and sort of air hostesses bringing them champagne. It's a ridiculous situation, and the scheme under which this is done, which is the voluntary return scheme, was something that was sort of introduced in the early part of the century, and I think it was really some kind of really clever Whitehall Mandarin looking at the current legal situation, realising that actually there's so many opportunities for foreign national offenders to challenge the actual deportation that they just came up with this solution of let's just throw taxpayers' money at it. And unfortunately, that seems to be the solution that a lot of civil servants have to a lot of problems. But this really is a really, really horrid state of affairs. You know, I'm very glad these individuals have actually been removed because, you know, frankly, we've got 20,000 roughly foreign national offenders who should be deported, who are eligible for deportation, but are still sort of roaming the streets next to communities, living next to schools, living next to friends and families and whatever. But this is not the way to go about it. If you really are struggling to remove an individual because of their ability to appeal and to challenge, then you have to change the law and you have to remove that ability for them to actually put up a fight. And we need to start entering a position where if a foreign national is given any kind of sentence, then we have arrangements, reciprocal arrangements with their country of origin where they serve their prison sentence in that country's prisons. They don't burden and blight our prisons and inflict £50,000 a year cost on the British taxpayer. They don't clog up spaces and lead to prison overcrowding, and they are just gone and got rid of and then never to return.
And let's think about the cost of this one flight. Don't forget, I assume these flights are leaving fairly regularly, one would hope. I mean, Labour likes to boast that they regularly send these voluntary deportees back to their home countries. What do they call it? They've got a name for it, haven't they? The facilitated return scheme. It's a euphemism if ever I heard one. Well, this one flight, some of these people were real troublemakers, and they needed as many as a dozen of these Home Office security escorts for one migrant. So, as I said earlier, it's estimated that to get these 47 deportees to the airport required 100 staff. Once they get onto the plane, each one of them has to have 3 Home Office escorts. Now, apart from giving them £2,000, don't forget we're paying their tickets. Now, I don't know how much it costs to go to Romania, what, £500, something like that. So think about that. 47 deportees, £500 a ticket, each one of them 3 escorts, £500 a ticket. Then we give each one of these 47 crooks, criminals, £2,000. Then all the escorts have to fly back to Britain, another flight. You know, the cost is just astronomical.
There needs to be so much more sort of productivity injected into how we actually deliver across all elements of our border enforcement, but in particular when it comes to actually enforce returns and the removals of individuals. I think that this is a large problem that we do have, not just when it comes to foreign nationals, but offenders, but to illegal migrants as well, in that it's just so cumbersome, and the way in which we approach this issue, you know, 3 people to a man, is so unproductive and really sort of sets us back actually, and puts us in a position where we're almost thinking, you know, it's not worth deporting because we'll have to pay all these costs and pay all these associated things. I think it's a really, really bad state of affairs. I mean, and actually, frankly, if you think about it, if these people are going through this scheme where whilst they're serving some of their sentence, they've volunteered to be removed under this scheme. You wouldn't think that they're sort of as much of a flight risk as someone that's sort of going kicking and screaming as well, because they put their hand up and been told, you know, you'll get £2,000 to reintegrate you into Romania when you get back. And then the bigger picture, of course, is what is our immigration system actually doing to stop people like this coming in the first place? You know, there's no guarantee that actually people with criminal records aren't already coming in. People that are ne'er-do-wells and offer very little aren't being given visas left, right and centre. And I think that's another thing that we need to consider here. You know, hundreds of thousands of people come in each year without providing a criminal record certificate. We don't know their backgrounds. They could very well also have similar sort of histories as these individuals.
And don't you think, I mean, I think this, I'm sure you think this, I'm sure everybody across the country is saying, well, what kind of a nation are we? I mean, you know, why haven't we got the backbone to tell murderers and rapists, we're kicking you out of the country, bye-bye? Why have we got to give them £2,000 to go? Why can't we just say, we don't want you here, you're out of here?
It's pathetic, and it really does make us...
It is pathetic, that is the word.
It makes us an absolute laughingstock. But again, I think what it is it's policymakers trying to be as clever as possible and play within the rules, however restrictive they are, the human rights rules and the, you know, all those appeals that are made to the right to family life, and the pushback that a lot of foreign national offenders do actually put up whilst we're trying to remove them. And I think someone's just come up with an idea, well, why don't we just effectively bribe them to leave the country? You know, no matter what crime they've committed, we're effectively almost rewarding, sort of to an extent, their criminality. This is a ridiculous situation. I also think that this idea that we've got some kind of duty to ensure that they're sort of able to reintegrate themselves back into their country of origin society, I'm sorry, it's not our problem. We didn't sort of rear these monsters. These aren't people that are sort of the result of our socialisation processes. These are people that have come from another country and have been raised by that society, and they've committed the crimes, and it's therefore really not our problem as soon as they're on a plane and sent back to that country. It's
just a disgrace. Listen, folks, let me know what you think about this. I mean, I knew Labour liked to boast about, oh, we're deporting thousands of migrants under the voluntary scheme. You know, they keep quiet about the fact that, you know, they often give them more than 2,000, 3,000, don't they? And I'd always assumed that they're talking about, you know, migrants, normal migrants who haven't committed crimes. You know, how about you go back to wherever you're from, here's £3,000. A bit like we did with about the 4 people we got to Rwanda. You know, I'd always assumed that these were innocent people who we'd persuaded or bribed, if you like, with cash to go home. But now we learn that murderers and rapists. It's just...
It is ridiculous. I mean, I do think there is a place when it comes to removing illegal migrants to sort of maybe just giving them a little bump just because, and it's called voluntary returns, that process it is actually cheaper than us having to put them in manacles and ship them off to their country of origin in a quite assertive manner. And if we can kind of make people realise through the creation of a hostile environment, if they're here illegally, that you will be removed and we'll give you a bit of money if you'd go, I think that will speed up the process.
Well, one last point about this, and it's worth mentioning, is what Shabana Mahmood means when she says this. I know this looks bad. She said, what did she say? It's not great. It doesn't look good out of context. Understatement of the century. What she means is it's more expensive to keep them in prison. But what she also means, and she said this in her extended interview, is that these people will stick around and fight their case to stay. So what we're talking about is murderers and rapists come out of jail, and they stick around and try and fight a case to stay. We should have a system where, no, you're a murderer, you're a rapist, you're a paedophile, you don't stay, you go. We've got to show some backbone. We can't carry on like this.
We're stuck in this obsession with sort of due process has to be delivered to every single person. And this is why I think the idea of a British Bill of Rights is actually a correct one, because it's something where, you know, foreign nationals who have come to this country and committed crimes don't have the same access to proper appeals and to legal process that the Brit that was born in this country does have. I think we need to have a sort of separation, that the ability of the legal instruments that someone can access is contingent on their nationality and their citizenship, not just because they've stepped foot on British soil.
Well, give us a ring, folks. Let me know what you think about this. As Robert just came up with exactly the right word, it's pathetic that we haven't got the strength as a nation to just kick rapists, murderers, dangerous criminals out. Instead, we have to bribe them with 2,000 quid. That is pathetic, but it is also, I would suggest, outrageous. It's infuriating, don't you think? 03444991000. When we come back, more migrant crisis madness and the money we spend. People have been doing this story all day, right until when Mike Graham was doing breakfast, but it bears repeating. This unbelievable situation where the Home Office is paying one taxi firm £350,000 a month to, for example, ferry one migrant 250 miles at a cost of £600 to see his GP. He was in an asylum hotel and he was moved to another asylum hotel, but he was allowed to keep the same doctor. So under our rules at the moment, he's not allowed to take the train for reasons that escape me. We don't let them take the train, we don't let them take the plane. There's stories of one guy being driven all the way from London to Scotland. Astronomical cab fares, £350,000 a month to one cab firm alone for 6,000 journeys, costing up to £600 each. And even the migrants say this is mad. But the BBC actually spoke to a migrant who said, "Yeah, we'd be happy to. We understand the lunacy of this. We're happy to take the train. They won't let us." So we'll talk about that insanity when we come back. So stay tuned.
He's right, isn't he?
Not sure he is.
Which bit is wrong?
He's quite unpopular in America on immigration.
No, he's not. His immigration policies are wildly popular.
No, they're not. The most recent polling, this is out this week, he is -11 on immigration.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, as I was saying before the break, we just dwelt on the extraordinary amount of money we're shelling out to murderers and rapists and dangerous criminals to persuade them to return to their home countries on very expensive flights. At least those are flights, you know, you can imagine, you know, it's fair enough that flights cost quite a lot of money, or at least you can accept that they do. Taxi fares, not so much. When you start talking about £600 taxi fares for hundreds of miles, you start thinking, wow, there must be better forms of transport. But no, what we're talking about now, and this is the story of the day, it turns out that the Home Office contractors, they're called Clear Springs Ready Homes. So they are, in essence, the Home Office in this respect. They've been paying £350,000 a month, 350 grand a month, to one cab firm, which has run as many as 6,000 journeys, costing up to £600 each, often hundreds of miles. Now, the reason for this is that migrants are moved into various asylum hotels, various houses of multiple occupation, all of that, but they get moved around. So when they're in, you know, this asylum seeker hotel, they get a GP, a local doctor. Then they get moved somewhere else, often hundreds of miles away, but they have a right to keep the same doctor. So under the Home Office rules, we, the taxpayer, we have to fund these and for some reason the rules are we can't put these poor people on trains or aeroplanes. One taxi driver did go from London to Scotland. You would have thought even a plane might have been a better idea. So for some reason the rule is we can't put them on trains, we can't put them on planes, so they have to go by cab. £350,000 a month. We have paid out, you, me, every taxpayer in the country, millions and millions of pounds on these taxi cabs, these cab fares. Now, even the migrants think this is crazy. The BBC spoke to a migrant, an Afghani guy called Kadir, who was driven 250 miles for a knee checkup. He told the BBC that the Home Office knows that it spends way too much money, and so do the migrants. He said, we know this as well, but we don't have any choice. So they don't. He sounds like a reasonable guy. He wanted to get on the train. No, you have to get on the taxi. This horror, this outrage emerged because the taxi firm that handles the south of England and Wales for the Home Office glories in the name. It's a catchy name. This company's called PTS 247.
A bit close to PTSD.
Not exactly handicabs or something. And PTS 247 is the name of the company. That company, the exact amount they were raking in per month was £344,000 a month. They launched legal action against Clear Springs, the Home Office contractor, over £2.75 million of unpaid invoices. So all of these details, these extraordinary details, came spilling out. The Home Office is not paying this bill because it says that PTS 247 has consistently failed to provide evidence of journeys it has taken. One former manager presiding over this shambles, he alleged that some migrants invent appointments in order to get lifts into town and even for nights out. Mr. Director at the Centre for Migration and Control, migrant expert, what do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I don't think you have to be sort of interested in migration to understand that when it comes to public procurement, a lot is going wrong. But it always seems to revolve around taxi companies. You see it with sort of special educational needs children being transported to school as well. I think what happens is sort of whether it's contractors or local councils get locked into sort of contracts of some form or another with taxis, and that would perhaps explain, I think, in large part why sort of trains are steered away from as a means of transportation, because they've sort of entered this arrangement with what PTS 147
get it right, PTS 247. PTS 247.
It's a droid from Star Wars, that. I swear it is ridiculous. But anyway...
You'd almost think that they didn't want to be noticed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it just seems like a sort of administrative code, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean... I think that's one part of this. I also think the second part of this is the contractors, so the Clear Springs of the world, those companies that run the accommodation, they have it in their contract that they were given by the Home Office that effectively it is their duty to make sure that all asylum seekers do have access to that medical and that dental care, and that it is sort of heaven and earth is moved to make sure that these individuals are at appointments sort of... And, you know, people are rightly annoyed because there is an element of to the front of the queue, and I think that is partly because you have these organisations such as Clear Springs that are working closer with GPs, and there's a sort of a slipstream that the ordinary Brit doesn't have access to, which effectively puts these people at the front of the queue. I mean, this is really a ridiculous situation, and again, it just shows that our generosity and our need to be nice is going to be the death of us. It's going to drive us to financial ruin. This is part of the reason why the accommodation costs for the asylum hotels is exploding, is going to cost us 10 billion by the end of the decade, just because of this kind of thing, as well as, of course, the increasing numbers of people coming across.
Well, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has launched a probe into this disaster, so she didn't know about it. And that's what we're talking about here, Robert. This is just slapdash, isn't it? You just know there are probably people all over the government in the cabinet today in Downing Street going, what the hell is this? And you think, well, why didn't you know about this? There's all sorts of this, you know, astronomical waste, extravagant expenditure that goes on all the time. And you just know, well, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, clearly found out today when the BBC and The Sun revealed this story. I would imagine Keir Starmer's finding out today. So unbeknownst to ministers, to the government, to people higher up in the civil service, this kind of slapdash administration and just spendthrift waste of taxpayers' money is going on all the time, and this is an outrageous example, isn't it?
It's just laziness. I mean, the asylum budget has exploded in recent years. It's increased sort of 7 or 8. Asking, you know, what is the surface that has meant that this is going on to this extent, because it's clearly something that isn't just because of the sheer numbers of people coming across, but it is also because of mismanagement, and it's because the sort of Home Office has got a hear no evil, see no evil approach to these issues.
As I say, I think the most telling thing here is, upon learning this today, the Home Secretary, is supposed to be in charge of this, has launched an inquiry, an investigation into what the hell's gone wrong here. And that would indicate, of course, that Shabana Mahmood's predecessor, Yvette Cooper, also didn't know about this. I mean, you know, I'm not the greatest fan of this Labour administration, but I don't believe that even a Labour cabinet minister, secretary, would look at this and say, oh, this is fine. Even they would say, hang on a second, we shouldn't be ferrying people on £600 taxi fares for 250 miles to see a doctor. And the other thing we must point out, we must stress here, you know, this is another egregious example of how migrants are given such superior treatment to the citizens of this country. You know, while millions of Brits struggle to see their GP, struggle to get medical treatment, don't even get me started on dentistry, migrants are put in the fast lane, given taxis, the GP they used to have, oh, we'll drive you there. In other words, they get first-class medical and dental treatment. They're ferried 250 miles in the back of a Mercedes to see their former GP. Meanwhile, millions of us can't even get a phone call through to our GP, let alone ever see a dentist. It's outrageous, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And if he's having to be transported all that distance to see a GP that he's previously been seeing, how often are they actually seeing GPs as well? I think there is a big question, and this is, again, comes down to the fact that sort of this data just isn't collected. How much of a burden is this illegal migration and these hotels crisis putting on the NHS? How many GP surgeries in areas with a lot of asylum seekers are finding themselves completely swamped and unable to keep up with the increasing demand? I think there really is a two-tier system that has been created, a two-tier administrative system, not just when it comes to the healthcare, but when it comes to things such as, you know, free bike rental for illegal migrants, trips to Anfield, trips to zoos. Across the board, there is an increasing...
Trampoline lessons, remember
trampoline,
that?
and there was DJs and circus arts and all that kind of stuff, you know. where is that for British people? There is none of this largesse extended to us, as we're seeing sort of taxes likely to go up in the next couple of months as well as a result of sort of Rachel Reeves really fudging the numbers.
Yeah,
so this is a situation out of control.
All that stuff you're talking about, the free driving lessons, free trampoline lessons, free trips to the bowling alley, free trips to the cricket, to the football grounds, and days out at the zoo, video games, consoles, mobile phones. We give them all this stuff when they get here, and it's given under the something called the Asylum Seeker Support, the Asylum Support Scheme. And in the past 5 years, folks, just so as you know, guess how much money has been spent on the Asylum Support Scheme, with a lot of government input as well, a lot of your money as well. Guess how much? £6.6 billion. 5 years, £6.6 billion on presents and gifts for people who break into our country illegally. While they're residing at four-star hotels that we pay for their free food and their doctors and their dentists and their lawyers and so on and so on. I honestly, I just don't. It's just.
It's not just the government there as well.
Isn't it?
I think it's really. It's charitable sector, the voluntary sector, the churches. All of these organisations have just completely shifted their horizon. Almost like the British population are too boring to bother sort of having to deal with and provide niceties to. Oh, this is a whole exciting new humanitarian phenomenon. We can pretend we're sort of the Good Samaritan as it, from the Bible, and sort of really extend all our generosity and make sure we get a pathway to heaven through showing these people a level of benevolence.
Care for Britain? Boring. Let's go 20 miles across the channel to France. Care for Calais. Much more exciting, much more interesting. Never mind those boring Brits. They can go to hell. Let's go and help some foreigners, because then we can polish our halos, signal our virtue, and go straight to heaven. It's great, isn't it? 03444991000. When we come back, I'm very sorry, but we're going to have to talk about the one-in, one-out scheme as we continue our tour of the absolute deranged insanity of our ongoing migrant crisis. This government came in saying it was going to solve it. To say it is escalated in the year or so since they came into power is the understatement of the century. It's off the scale now, folks. The one-in, one-out scheme, we've got new news on that. It'll make you laugh. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is talk.
Welcome back. Well, I'm afraid we're still with the migrant crisis. It's the one in, one out scheme, and we have amazing news. Now, you may have heard that, whoop-de-doo, pop the champagne corks. We have now returned 4 migrants to France on a scheme that we launched on, I think it was August the 11th. 4. This is where we swap a foreigner. So for each migrant, don't ask me why. I mean, if you understand the one in, one out scheme, if you understand what the point is, for God's sake, give me a call, 0344 499 1000, because for the life of me, I can't work it out. It's not a deterrent. 1,072 migrants came across the channel illegally on Friday, so they weren't deterred. In fact, one newspaper, the Sunday Telegraph, was on the beach. You like this, Gravelines Beach, on Friday morning, watching them all go. The coppers were taking pictures, filming them through their phones, basically going like that, not doing anything. And the Sunday Telegraph spoke to some of these migrants. They said, "What do you think about the one in, one out scheme?" And they're all bursting into laughter.
Really?
Yeah, they were just
that
laughing.
Sums it up. So I think,
well, it's not a
you don't laugh, you cry.
Of course it's not a deterrent. There was a cartoon in one of the papers. There was 2 migrants standing on the beach, and one was saying, "I'm not risking this crossing. There's a 33,000 to 1 chance I could be sent back."
Well, yeah, and that really is the scale of ridiculousness. There was one modelling that suggested that if we really wanted this to be a deterrent, we'd have to return 85% of those that are coming across to France. We're nowhere near that. What is it? 1 in 17 best case scenario when we finally get there.
But it's nowhere near this, because what's happened is the Home Office has lost another appeal today in the High Court because an Eritrean migrant who was about to be deported, he's been granted leave to remain while he continues his case. And of course his case is based, they're all going to the High Court and challenging their deportation under the one in, one out scheme under the terms of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, because they say they're victims of modern slavery, and it's working. So another migrant successfully challenged his deportation today. So that's 4 out so far, altogether 4. And today, 3 migrants came the other way. The first arrived from France, 3. So that means, mathematically, folks, the population of illegal migrants in Britain, thanks to the one in, one out scheme, has been reduced by, whoop-de-doo, 1. It's good, isn't it?
999,999 to go. This is barely scratching the surface. This is a ridiculous. This whole thing was desperately cobbled together because they realised that their smashing the gangs narrative had completely flopped.
You don't hear that anymore, do you?
No, it's been abandoned. It's been dropped very quickly. Now it's all about this France deal. This is effectively their Rwanda scheme. And as we're already seeing with this Eritrean man that we're not able to remove, you'd think deporting an individual to France is the case study of deportation. It would not face human rights challenges and would not face any concerns. France is a very safe country. If we're not even able to remove an individual to France because of our human rights law and our modern slavery laws, what chance do we really have going forward of removing the large numbers of people to countries of origin and putting in place any strong deterrent on that regard? It's really, really concerning, actually, how pernicious these rules have started to become on such a sort of benign, soft deportation strategy, such as this one in, one out. And then, of course, you get into the fact that, actually, it really doesn't do anything to alleviate the burden on the British taxpayer if we're just having the same number of individuals sent back our way who are actually going to be here now probably for the rest of their lives, inflicting long-term costs on the Treasury as well, because they're not likely to be economically active. They're likely to be sort of very redundant and reliant on welfare for the most of their lives.
Exactly right. Now, Shabana Mahmood, funny enough, in that same interview she gave to ITV News on the back of that deportation to Romania flight, she said that she will be now, and you better get going, but she says she will be, and I quote, ramping up the one in, one out scheme, and she wants to, and this is a direct quote from the Home Secretary, want to get to a point where the numbers that are being removed act as a deterrent and stop people getting onto the boats in the first place. Well, get to a point where the numbers being removed act as a deterrent? Well, one of the migrants interviewed by the Sunday Telegraph last Friday, as they were queuing to leave the beach, and the coppers are taking pictures of them. We're getting a hell of a lot for the £500 million we gave Macron for his cops to patrol the beaches, as in nothing at all. They just watch, wave and go, au revoir, enjoy Britain. One of them said, well, you know, if the one in, one out scheme was to work, they'd have to be returning about 2,000 a week. Now, in their wildest dreams, the Labour government has always said we're shooting for about 40 to 50. Well, that's not a deterrent.
And that's when it's ramped up, and Mahmoud has gone in with a hardline Home Secretary, no nonsense, prepared to completely turn up the apple cart and overhaul the way we approach this issue. You know, you're absolutely right. The solution to the, and I always say this, the solution to the illegal migration crisis does not involve us having to enter any kind of agreement with the French. It requires us to get very nasty, if need be, with countries of origin from these individuals, to obviously remove the ECHR from the ambit of our immigration tribunals, to make appeals and to accept appeals under that basis, and to really just start returning individuals from whence they came. And if there's not a country that we can return an individual to, then to a third country such as Rwanda, but with that added bonus of having left behind the human rights and modern slavery frameworks that have held us back for far too long. Absolutely.
It's just mad. I'll tell you what, folks, give me a call, because the one in, one out scheme is a misnomer, isn't it? You know, we're not sending one in and receiving one, well, sending one out and receiving one in, are we? And it's supposed to be a deterrent. So what would you call the one in, one out scheme more accurately? And remember, this is a family show. Have you got a better name for the one in, one out scheme? I mean, I've got a few, but that would have to be restricted to off air. But seriously, just tell me what you think about it. I mean, what is the point? Seriously, Rob. So even in its purest form, according to Labour, it's this. For every 17 migrants, we take one randomly and say, you're the unlucky one, you're going to get deported back to France. So the idea is, the proposition to migrants in Calais on the northern French beaches is, well, if you come over, you've got a 1 in 17 chance of being returned. Well, that's worth a roll of the dice in anybody's money, isn't it?
It's definitely, and if you are that unlucky one, you know, get sent back to France, and if need be, have another go again as well. And, you know, the people smugglers, as we've been hearing over the last several years, are very canny at adjusting their business model to solve any attempts that the British government does put in place to try and deter people from making those crossings. So I'm no doubt that there would be a kind of, you know, you failed once, you got to try again type offering put out and advertised on these Telegram groups that are really actually the main draw that individuals are being made aware of these opportunities in the UK.
And by the way, just briefly in terms of the northern French beaches, again, a very good piece in the Sunday Telegraph. This was revealed that they're now, since September the 7th, the French police have been stopping less than a quarter of the boats, or less than a quarter of the migrants. And this time last year, August and July last year, they were stopping something like 46%. So it's plummeted to less than a quarter. Through July and August, it was about 31%, so less than a third. It's now down to a quarter. And the other point is that ones that they do stop, they basically don't detain any of them. They just say, right, you get back to the sand dunes. So that's what they do. They just go back to the camps and they come back another day. You know, this is ridiculous, folks. This is ridiculous. We're getting nothing out of France. The one in, one out scheme is Keir Starmer's latest way of hitting the headlines. That's all Smash the Gangs was. It's a snappy phrase. Good for headlines, never did anything. They never say it anymore. Now one in, one out. That's not working. It's just performative nonsense. It's headline hunting. Let me know what you think. The one in, one out scheme. Got a new name for it? Or just explain to me how it's supposed to work, because Robert and I don't know. He's an expert. I'm not, but we just don't know what the hell the point of the one in, one out scheme is. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but it's costing us a lot of money, of course, if only in legal fees. Home Office lawyers are locked in constant legal battle in the High Court as all these one in, one out rejects fight their cases to stay. I'm a victim of modern slavery. Oh, OK, you can stay then. And they keep losing. It's ridiculous, ridiculous. Let me know, 03444991000 when we come back. Special treat for you. We're going to do a story that isn't about the migrant crisis. It's about Morgan McSweeny. For whom does the bell toll? It tolls for you, Morgan. He is the Chief of Staff, Downing Street Chief of Staff, Keir Starmer's right-hand man, who's in a world of trouble. We'll tell you all about that when we come back, so stay tuned.
Let's not forget, this is a government that came in saying that they were going to raise the bar on public service. They were going to be a government of service. They were going to put country first, party second. They were not going to have sleaze. They were not going to have anything dishonest. They were going to be transparent. All of the things that they said they were going to be. We didn't ask them to say all those things. They volunteered them, and now they have been proven to be complete liars, shysters, crooks, and scumbags. There you go. There's a soundbite for the morning.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Robert Bates, the director at the Centre for Migration Control, and appropriately we've been doing a lot of migrant crisis stories because there's so much to talk about. Got lots of phone calls and messages from you all about this. Someone said, this is from L, Doki, this is from LOL. It said, why don't we call it the okie dokie? It is. You put the one migrant in, you take the one migrant out, you do the hokey cokey, and you turn around. That's about the size of it. But anyway, this is a non-migrant story. Whoop-de-doo. Let's talk about Morgan McSweeny, Robert. He is the Chief of Staff at Downing Street. One of these people, you know, the Westminster, is brilliant. In the Westminster game, brilliant strategist.
Yeah, no one ever knows why they say it. They just
fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, folks, when the Westminster bubble gang, you know, the MPs and all the spads and all, they go, brilliant, that man is the most brilliant man in Parliament. It means they're completely moronic. You know, they have much lower standards about brilliance than the rest of us. Considering Morgan McSweeny is supposed to be a genius, he's not exactly doing very well for his boss. However, he's in a world of trouble. Basically, he stands accused of essentially hiding substantial amounts of donations to a shady think tank called Labour Together. This was back in 2021. In fact, Labour Together, it was depicted as a sort of meeting for political, pointy heads to discuss political issues. But in fact, what it was a covert group organisation aimed at deposing the disastrous Jeremy Corbyn and installing Keir Starmer as Labour. This organisation was fined nearly £14,250 back in 2021 for not declaring 20 donations. 20 donation law. This is against the law, by the way. This is a legal issue. Morgan McSweeney's defence was that no one told him he had to declare these. And now, Robert, a email from a Labour lawyer has emerged in which he did say to McSweeny, you should have declared these donations, but what you should do now is pretend they're an administrative error, a mistake. But he never really even did that. But his crime seems to be that he says that no one told him he had to declare £739,000 worth of donations to this think tank. Now the Tories, they smell blood and they say he broke the law, the police should be called in and he has to go. Mike Graham thinks the writing's on the wall for him. I think it doesn't look good, I really don't. When you add to the fact that the Prime Minister is furious with him for recommending Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador to Washington, Morgan McSweeny may not be long for this Downing Street world.
No, but it's an interesting one because if you look at what's sort of come out in the last couple of hours, which is, of course, that sort of people are now suggesting as well that Starmer should have actually declared some of the stuff that came through Labour Together. You actually have to wonder, does Starmer have the option to get rid of McSweeny, or is there sort of what they concocted over the last several years during Starmer's leadership bid with Labour Together? Does that mean that he actually almost hasn't got the option because he doesn't want a disgruntled former aide on the outside throwing stones? And of course, the last sort of senior PM aide that was in the headlines quite as much as McSweeny was Dominic Cummings. And when Boris Johnson finally gave him the axe, we all saw what happened with that. Cummings was relentlessly briefing against Boris Johnson until eventually it was his downfall. So I think this is a really interesting tension here that probably Starmer would definitely rather he didn't have, but I don't really know if he's got the sort of room for manoeuvre that perhaps some people would think, that McSweeny can just be thrown out of the door and there will be no ramifications. I mean, he's already got sort of the Prince of Darkness now sat on the outside.
And Angela Rayner throwing stones from outside the tent now, and she's hooking up with Andy Burnham, so she's definitely going to rear her ugly head again, and I use that figuratively, folks, and try to sort of make a re-grab for power. Peter Mandelson, you don't want to get on the wrong side of him. He's briefing furiously against Starmer. And you're right, Starmer won't want to make another enemy. And also, if McSweeny has to go, it will only add to the aura of shambles surrounding this Prime Minister.
Well, exactly. And does he really, can he really afford to lose someone that has been such a close part of his ascent to the top of British politics? I really think, Starmer's in a position now where actually we're talking about whether McSweeney's the one that could be going. I think Starmer's probably in an incredibly perilous situation as a result of just this sort of stacking up now he's got of enemies, and if you're going to really throw under the bus somewhat of sort of get rid of someone that has been so big a part of your political ascendancy, you really are in a position where you just don't know what kind of deluge of stones could continue to be thrown at your tent. So I really think Starmer's not got the room for manoeuvre that he would perhaps wish he did have on this issue. But it just goes back to, do you remember Andrew Marr after the general election, sort of, for the first time in ages, Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability. Well, that stench of sleaze is well and truly back in Downing Street again, not long after the Tories.
Sleaze, shambles, chaos, and if Morgan McSweeny goes, Mike Graham says this, a lot of other people say it, won't be long before Starmer goes as well. Roll on that day. Robert Bates, thank you so much.
Jeff.
Great hour. When we come back, we'll talk about the mega mosque. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 30 minutes, we'll be taking your calls, 03444991000. You know what we're talking about, the madness of the money we're spending on the migrant crisis, 2,000 each to murderers, rapists, serious criminals, to agree to be deported back to their own country, put on an aeroplane, 3 Home Office escorts. It's costing a damn fortune. Plus, it turns out the Home Office contractors are shelling out millions and millions of pounds to, for example, ferry migrants 250 miles for a £600 cab fare to see their doctors because they've moved hotels. So we're spending out millions and millions of pounds on cab fares. Even the migrants don't understand why they're not allowed to use trains, but they're not. Or planes, for that matter. Some of them go to Scotland, apparently, sort of £600 fares. For some reason, you know, they can't use trains or planes. We have to use cabs. Migrants go, we agree, it's crazy. What do you think about that? Let me know. The one-in, one-out scheme, I've got a lot of suggestions about what to call it. This is a message from Mark Camfield in Sussex. He says, Kevin, I wish you would stop effing chuckling about this migrant crap. It's not funny, so don't keep laughing about it. Well, Mark, 2 things to say to you. First, don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I like, thank you very much. And secondly, you know, if you didn't laugh about this, you would cry. I'm not laughing because I find it funny. I'm laughing at the sheer absurdity of this deranged madness. I'm laughing with contempt, so get it right and don't tell me what to do, all right? OK, let's get back to our agenda. Last night we spoke to an excellent lady up in Cumbria. She's called Donna Hill. She's one of the local residents in a place called Dalton-in-Furness. It's just south of the Lake District. Beautiful rural area. Where they've been campaigning to stop a mega mosque, a huge construction. They call it a monstrosity. This eyesore. They've started to build it now, essentially in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of all these fields, where 250 Islamic worshippers will converge, you know, to say their prayers, etc. No objection to that, of course. But the campaigner said, well, for 250 people, we've only got 11 car parking spaces. And why have we got a mega mosque in our area, in our constituency, in our town, when the local area, the percentage of Muslim people, of Islamic people who live in this area is 1%. So why do they need a massive mega mosque? Now, we're going to talk in a second. Well, let's bring him in now, and then we'll play a little bit of Donna from last night. So, warm welcome to Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Hello, Andrew.
Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, what this story is, we'll have a listen to Donna from my show last night in just a second. This is what the local authority stand accused of is A, ignoring the local campaign, ignoring the impassioned campaign by these local people, just trampling over them and saying, no, the mega mosque goes ahead. And B, showing favouritism towards Muslim people, towards Muslims. These are the accusations. Donna Hill spoke to me last night. She absolutely denied it's anything to do with racism. She says it's just inappropriate in their little town. Massive mosque and 11 car parking spaces, 250 worshippers. Doesn't really stack up, does it? Let's have a listen to Donna from last night.
Nothing to do with, none of us are racist. It's the location and just the size of the building. It's an absolute eyesore. As you can see, it's hideous. It's so out of place.
And the council, you presumably have been campaigning for this, against this for some time.
Yeah.
The council have just essentially just ignored you.
Yeah, it's all been done very quietly without residents having, really knowing anything about it. I think it was first passed in 2022 during lockdown, and it seems to have just been. It just seemed to be adding things, but without anyone knowing about it. Local residents were really unaware until it started being built.
And are you still? I mean, have you given up hope, or are you still?
No, we've appointed a barrister now who's looking into the plans, because we do believe there's been a lot of corruption along the way with the plans, and also he's looking into the highways and seeing about the safety of it as well.
But it is a powerful argument that you say this constituency where you live, Dalton-in-Furness, 1% of the population are Muslim.
Yeah.
So why would they require this enormous mosque? Well, obviously, Andrew, she did answer at that point, no idea, you know, and that's what they're so furious about. And what they're saying is, you know, it's quite right. It's nothing to do with racism or Islamophobia, but we don't understand why an area, a rural area, lovely little town called Dalton-in-Furness, on the edge of the Lake District. You saw the beautiful countryside that this mega mosque is set in. We don't understand why an area with a 1% Muslim population is having this massive mosque imposed on it. They say this looks like a classic case of, you know, kind of strange favouritism towards Islam. What are your thoughts here?
I can understand why the doctors at the General Hospital in Barrow-in-Furness want a place of worship. I mean, I'm a Christian and Catholic. I can fully understand that. The nearest mosque to them is around 50 miles away in Lancaster. It's over an hour's drive. It's impractical. So I completely understand that. And we also, in this country, Kevin, have the most arcane and almost impossible to navigate planning laws. And in general, I'm in favour of liberalisation, but I've looked on the map and I just can't for the life of me work out why you would place a new building there. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me at all. And then when you read into it that there could be up to 250 people there, now, okay, some of those are going to be children. So, but even so, you would think maybe 80 to 100 cars could possibly be wanting to park somewhere so people can go and worship in the mosque. And there's car parking for 11. Now, it's not quite in the middle of nowhere, Kevin. It's near Dalton-in-Furness. It's on the outskirts. But even so, people are going to be travelling for miles around and converging in this area, and there's going to be nowhere to park. And now, if you were to try and build a new housing development there to provide, you know, homes for local families, if you were trying to build a small nuclear reactor to provide power for hundreds of thousands of people, you would never get planning permission. So it is quite a mystery why this one has been granted planning permission on this site.
Westmoreland and Furness Council, for they are the authority in charge here. Westmoreland and Furness Council said, I read this out last night as well, but this is their statement. We support people's right to practice their religion free from harassment and abuse. That's the beginning of their statement. I don't know what on earth that has got to do with whether or not you're going to build a mega mosque, you know. So thank you very much, Westmoreland and Furness Council, for that excellent piece of virtue signalling, halo polishing. We support people's right to practice their religion free from harassment and abuse. You're supposed to support people's right to practice their religion free from harassment and abuse.
So do you, Kevin, and so do I.
Of course, you're supposed to. So that is nonsense. But then it goes on to say, noting that the prayer centre has followed all necessary procedures to gain planning permission. Well, I'm sure they have. But this is in the face of an impassioned campaign by the local people who say this is an inappropriate location. You know, because they don't understand why it would be in the middle of their community when their community only contains 1% of Islamic people. And B, as you just alluded to, 250 worshippers, you know, that's going to take a lot of cars, and they've only got spaces for 11 cars. This will cause traffic chaos, I would suggest. I mean, I can give you a sort of slight story of my own local mosque, which is in Regent's Park in central London. You know, lovely building, and lots of wonderful people worship there pretty much every day. But on the big worshipping days, the cars around Regent's Park. It's absolutely packed. Nothing wrong with that because there's plenty of spaces for them to go. But in a place like this, I think it'll cause chaos.
In central London, you've also got an excellent public transport system with buses and
yes,
tubes.
good point. Good point.
And you know, so that eases the traffic problems. Whereas in a place like this, you don't have that. I'll be surprised there's even a reliable bus service most days. But what I can't understand is why a brownfield site somewhere that was close to the hospital, because we are talking about hospital doctors who are wanting this built, who are working at Barrow-in-Furness General Hospital, why there can't be a brownfield site somewhere in Barrow that could accommodate this. It just that just doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
And I mean, I'm not quite sure what these doctors have particularly got to do with it. OK, they're Muslim doctors.
Well, they wanted building. They're behind this particular Islamic centre. They're the driving force behind it, according to the Telegraph.
You're right. They are. But I find that in itself quite strange. But as I say,
well, I get the impression, Kevin, that basically the Islamic community in that area are those people who work at the hospital.
Yeah,
that's what I read from the Telegraph.
They're the 1%. Yes.
Yes, they are pretty much. Yes.
Yeah, but as I say, this arguably, I'm not necessarily saying this, but some of the locals say that this just looks like an authority that has shown definite favouritism towards Muslims, towards Islamic people. And we know the syndrome we're talking about, we've got Westmoreland and Furness's Council. By the way, did I mention that they support people's right to practice their religion free from harassment and abuse? Whoop-de-doo, well done, well done. You just wonder. And this is what the local people are saying. This council was too afraid to say no in case it was charged with Islamophobia. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I think that is probably true. I think it's certainly got, the argument has certainly got some merit, because if they had turned it down, that's exactly what they would have been accused with. And we know throughout all the red gangs scandals that we've seen, it's always been about not trying to upset the local community, not stir up community tensions. These are the sort of things that have been said as to the reason why there were cover-ups. And I think it could even be as simple as that. Well, if we turn down this planning application, it looks like we're being Islamophobic. This is what we're going to be accused with. I think we'll have to treat this very, very carefully. And yes, and it's gone through. And that could well be the case. Of course, I don't know, but it is plausible.
Well, that's what the protesters feel. They feel that this is the case and that their wishes, their impassioned campaign has been completely ignored. I mean, this statement from Westmoreland and Furness Council, by the way, they support people's right to practice their religion free from harassment and abuse, because they're wonderful people. What they should have included in this statement is some reference to the campaign by the local people. But no, they just say, they followed the necessary procedures to gain planning permission. I mean, that is a pretty nebulous thing to say about a massive building for 250 people in the middle of a few fields, isn't it? That's a very nebulous thing to say.
Yes, it is. And of course, when they say that all the planning rules were followed, nobody really knows whether that's true or not, because no one understands the planning rules.
Well, also, I believe, I'm no expert on planning rules, but consultation is supposed to be part of the process, isn't it? And the local people just don't feel that they've been properly consulted, that they've been ridden roughshod over.
Yeah, and that could well be true, and I don't blame them for feeling like that. But as you've said, you're not an expert on planning. I'm not an expert on planning. But the fact is, if you want to actually build anything in this country, because of the planning rules, you have to get an expert on planning to be able to understand the system. So if the council turns around and says, we followed all the rules, well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Nobody would actually know.
No, and as I say, some reference to the people who've campaigned against this would be nice. I want to stress, and I'm sure you agree with me, Andrew, that this is not about sort of saying, these Muslims shouldn't have a place of worship. Of course they should. Of course they should.
Well, that's why I said, why can't there be some sort of suitable building actually in the bigger town of Barrow-in-Furness?
Exactly.
There must be something there, or something on the outskirts, somewhere there's a more appropriate location than this, and certainly with more than 11 car parking spaces.
It's just about location. Of course they should have a place of worship, a nice new place of worship. I don't actually think it's that bad a looking building, except for where it is. It stands out like a carbuncle.
If this had been in a town, Kev, I think it would have probably just blended in pretty much.
Exactly.
Because it's not particularly ugly. I mean, I've seen these reports where people are saying it's a monstrosity. I don't think it is a monstrosity, but put in that position where it is on the outskirts of a small town in some fields, it stands out like a sore thumb.
It does become a monstrosity. It becomes an eyesore because of the setting. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what the local people want to know. Why? Look at it. Just this it's just ridiculous. But construction, as you can see, has started, but they have hired a top barrister, so their campaign continues apace. And even people in the campaign, we spoke to quite a few today, are worried about putting their head above the parapet in case they're charged with Islamophobia. So what I think we have to worry about culturally in this country is the stasis that people sort of self-impose, they self-censor because of the terror of being accused of Islamophobia. I mean, it's a different kind of story, but that was the story of the rape gang scandal, wasn't it? People in power, coppers, social workers, teachers, being afraid to speak out and take action about this awful raping and drugging and torturing of young, vulnerable white girls in case they were accused of Islamophobia. This fear of being accused of Islamophobia, I think, is a problem in this country.
Yes, it is. No, I completely agree with you, and it seems to hit the headlines a lot. I tell you what doesn't hit the headlines, Kevin, is that tens of thousands of Christians are being slaughtered in Africa, and you never even hear about it.
Well, there you go. As there's two-tier religious stories there.
Well, I think it is because Islamophobia seems to hit the headlines all the time. You've got council officials, police officers all worried about it and things like that. But you can say anything that you like about Christianity, as an example. You seem to be able to say anything you like about Judaism, and everyone's got to accept it. But you make a mild criticism of Islam, and you get Islamophobia thrown at you. And I mean, we've got the right to criticise any religion, including my own. I'm a pretty devout Catholic. But, I do accept that everyone's got the right to tip the mickey out of it if they want to.
Yeah, I'll give you Sadiq Khan, Sir Sadiq Khan, as he's hilariously known these days, the London mayor, throwing the kind of racism, sexism, Islamophobic book at Donald Trump today. To call him every single name under the sun, but one of them, of course...
You have to get your bingo card.
Yeah. It's a ding house. But yeah, I mean, throwing the Islamophobic card at Donald Trump, which rather ridiculously, if you ask me. But there you have a case of what we're talking about. Andrew, very good to talk to you. It's been too long. Come on again soon. Andrew Allison there, head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism. What do you think about this? What do you think about the residents who feel that they've been ignored? Their campaign has been ignored, been ridden roughshod over because they fear that the council, has shown a kind of favouritism to the Muslims because they're terrified of being accused of Islamophobia. So this great, big, massive mega mosque is going to be built, in the middle of nowhere in a nice rural town. On the outskirts, you saw it. Let me know. 03444991000. When we come back, same kind of topic, really. Another case of arguable favouritism towards Muslims. This was the man, we'll play you the video, who in shocking scenes repeatedly slashed a knife at a protester who was burning the Quran outside the Turkish consulate in Knightsbridge. This man who he slashed a knife at him, he kicked him when he was down, terrified him, because you are actually allowed to burn a Quran in Britain. That is a legal protest. This guy has been spared jail. The guy who attacked him and slashed he's been spared jail. Toby Young from the Free Speech Union is extremely concerned about this. Now, when we come back, we'll talk to the former chair of the Conservative Conservative Party and now, of course, of Reform UK. Formerly of this parish, used to present a lot of shows here on Talk, Sir Jake Berry. So we'll talk to Jake after this break.
Remember the case of the man who violently attacked a protester who was burning a Quran, shouting F Islam outside the Turkish consulate in London to, the man who attacked him, who came out, this is Musa Kadri, he came running at him saying, I'm going to kill you, repeatedly slashed at him with a bread knife. If you're watching, we've got the footage of it right now. It's on camera. It's not like there's a query whether he did it or not. He then got him to the ground, carried on kicking him on the ground and trying to slash him.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let me welcome to the show former colleague of mine, former chair of the Conservative Party, now, of course, with Reform UK, Sir Jake Berry. Hello, Jake.
Evening, Kev. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. Well, let me just lay this story out briefly, if I can, and then we'll play the video. Back in June, a guy called Hamit Kuskan, he's 51, staged a protest. He's called a disaffected Muslim outside the Turkish consulate by burning the Quran. That, of course, is a legal protest in this country. We don't have blasphemy laws. Now, while he was doing this, an angry Muslim, a guy called Musa Kadri, he's 59, sort of lost his temper and attacked Mr. Kuskan with a knife, rather dangerously. We'll have a look at that in a second. He also kicked him to the ground and shouted, "I'm going to kill you." Now, Mr. Kuskan, I should say, he was convicted in June of a religiously aggravated public order offence and fined £240. He's appealing against that. Now, Mr. Kadri today, or yesterday in Southwark Crown Court, was basically let off. The judge said, a judge called Adam Hiddleston, he said, well, your offence clearly crosses the custody threshold and then gave him one of these ridiculous suspended sentences. It was an 18-month sentence, a 20-week prison sentence suspended of 18 months, which basically means he doesn't go to prison, he just walks out. So it crosses the custodial line, but I'm not going to put you into custody. Let's watch the video and then I'll get your thoughts on it. So check this out.
The Quran. No, you shouldn't be. Listen. It's my religion. You don't buy Quran. What are you doing? Come on, man. What are you doing? You're standing out in public road with knife. He went into his residence here. He went into here, took a knife, come out, and started attacking him with a knife. Unbelievable.
While we talk, Jake, that was the sort of denouement of this clash. As you see, he was slashing this knife really worryingly. And of course, Hammett, the protester, fell to the ground and he kicked him and everything. I'm going to kill you. This is my religion. Toby Young said today that this very light sentence, there you can see them. Look at this. Look at that. Look, with a knife. That is. Look at that. Look at that. Shouting, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. Toby Young from the Free Speech Union, Lord Young, said today that this light sentence, and I quote, sends a green light to any Muslim who wants to enforce an Islamic blasphemy by taking the law into their own hands. The court is effectively saying that if you attack a blasphemer with a knife, he will be convicted of causing you harassment, alarm or distress, but you won't have to spend a day behind bars. There does seem to be an imbalance in the punishment for the Quran burner, and this guy, I would say that's extremely threatening behaviour, but he seems to have got off very lightly. The judge said, oh, you're a man of previous good character, exemplary character, etc., etc. I guess what we're talking about here is this favouritism towards a Muslim Islamic offender?
Well, look, Kev, Toby Young, unsurprisingly, given he's a brilliant individual, has got it right. But let's look at this, if you like, in three parts. As well as you read out my career about the things I've done in life. I'm actually a lawyer as well, so I find things like this really interesting. For me, the thing the judge failed to pick up here was the premeditated nature of this serious violent attack on the streets of London. So the BBC, mainstream media, reported from the court that the man actually went home, got a knife, or first tackled the guy who was burning the Quran, and he said, look, I'll be back, went home, got a knife, came back and attacked him. Now, in terms of the law, the premeditated nature, the going home and getting a knife proves that you haven't, the red mist hasn't descended, you haven't lost your temper. It just shows that this was a premeditated attack, and it should therefore be subject to the most severe sanction, including, in my view, absolutely a custodial sentence. So that's the first thing. Toby Young correctly picks up on this is the sort of, one rule for offending Muslims and another rule for offending everyone else. I think if someone burnt the Bible, I don't think the police would do it. They'd even have an arrest, let alone ever go to trial. And then the final thing, this is a blasphemy law by the back door. This judge today, in this crazy decision, has effectively said to one group of people in our society, Muslims, if you're offended by any form of protest against your religion, it's okay. Go to your house, get a bread knife in a city which has got a huge knife crime problem, and slash at someone on the street. This is a terrible, terrible decision. It's further evidence of the appalling two-tier policing we have in this country. I mean, people who say that we don't have tier policing need to go and get their head felt by a doctor. We have appalling two-tier policing in this country. There is one rule, I'm sorry to say, for Muslims, and another rule for everyone else. And if anyone doubted it, today is further evidence of that. Burning a Quran is a deeply distasteful thing to do. I wouldn't do it, as is burning a Bible or any other religious text. It's deeply offending. It does not accuse this sort of, almost attempted murder, premeditated on the streets of London, getting off with effectively a slap on the wrist. It is a dark day for justice, I think, today.
Well said. Now, the Quran burner, Hamid Kuskum, was originally charged when he was arrested. As I say, he was convicted in June of a religiously aggravated public order offence. Originally, the charge was along the lines of a religiously aggravated public order offence causing offence to Islam. And it was later pointed out that actually that cannot be a charge. But it does provide a window into our legal system's attitudes. I'm afraid, I agree with you. I wouldn't go around burning a Quran. I wouldn't want to offend Muslims in that way, just as I wouldn't want to burn a Bible or any other holy book. But in this country, that is not illegal. We do not have blasphemy laws. And I'm afraid that people like Mr. Musa Qadri sort of believe that we should have. He was screaming at poor Mr. Kuskum as he cowered on the floor, "This is my religion! This is my religion!" Well, again, I don't want to offend his religion, but in this country, to that charge, "This is my religion," we are allowed to say, "So what?" And you're right, we're getting this wrong. This is a special treatment for Muslims, isn't it?
Well, look, causing an offence should not be a crime. If it was a crime, half of my ex-constituents would be locked up because they weren't always deeply polite about my efforts to serve them. That is not a crime. Walking around the streets with a knife is a crime. Kicking someone on the floor is a crime. Trying to slash at someone with a knife is a crime, and in this case has got off with, in my view, far too lenient a punishment. And I'm sorry to hark back to it, compare the treatment of this individual to the treatment of Lucy Connolly, a lady who put a rather stupid and irresponsible tweet on Twitter, also previously of completely unblemished character, who was sent to prison for, I think it was 30 months.
For 31 months, 2 years and 7 months.
31 months, she served just over half of it, I believe. This is not right. And I all sort of go back to the comments of President Trump yesterday to the UN about how the streets of London are lawless, about how we have Sadiq Khan, with supposedly supporting Sharia courts. I've seen no evidence of that. There absolutely are Sharia courts in London. I've seen no evidence of Sadiq Khan supporting them. But this sort of message that London is not a safe city is going around the world, and it's deeply, deeply damaging to our country and our economy and our ability to hold our head up high in the world. And crazy judgments like this just add to it. I've just come back from the States yesterday, and the one thing people are asking me in the United States, they're asking me about the comedian who was arrested at Heathrow Airport. They were asking me about Lucy Connolly. They were asking me about attack on freedom of speech and things like these blasphemy laws. This is not just important to us. This is important to everyone around the world. And stupid, lenient judgments like this aren't just outraging British society, they're outraging the global West. It's absolutely unacceptable. And, frankly, I look back at the former Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, was in Parliament when the Charlie Hebdo attacks took place. Actually, not a million miles away from this. A magazine was published in Paris, in France, where they depicted the Prophet Muhammad on the front, deeply offensive to Muslims, like burning the Quran. The difference there was someone went on a gun and shot the journalist who did it. I'm not sure that's very different from getting a knife and trying to stab someone on the street. And she was in Parliament and she said, "Je suis Charlie," which is the battle cry that people in politics gave to say, we will not tolerate this type of violence, whatever the motivation, whether it's religious or anything else. And we have seen today the government that she is part of, was recently the Home Secretary of, effectively overseeing a justice system that is allowing a violent knife criminal to walk away free. And it's a disgrace.
Couldn't agree with you more, Jake. By the way, I sat down with Lucy Connolly last week here at Talk Towers for a big 45-minute interview. And I don't know if you've ever met her, but 3 minutes in her company, and I thought, we put this woman into jail because she's seen as a threat to society. Once you meet Lucy Connolly, the idea that that woman was put into jail because she was some kind of danger to the rest of us is just patently absurd, absolutely ridiculous.
Lucy Connolly was a political prisoner. She was a political prisoner put there by the government, the state that was concerned about losing control of society. I know that may be a slightly sort of exciting thing for me to say, but I truly believe.
I agree with it. I totally agree with it. I pitched
there as a whipping boy, a scapegoat for appalling violence. I mean, she wasn't trying to burn down asylum hotels. People were, and it's right to throw the bloody book at them. She was a political prisoner. The government wanted to make a statement to say, all get back in your box. We're not prepared to allow this to happen. And she, unfortunately, I'm very sorry to say, was the example they chose to lead with. A young woman, a mother, taken away from her family. It is a moment of national shame.
It's a stain on our justice system.
Were prepared to sit back and allow this to happen.
Totally right, Jake. Now, we haven't got too long, but I do need to get you on this. We've got a new show on Talk. It's Harry Cole Saves the West. I'm not sure how well he's doing in that endeavour so far, but he's on a mission. Anyway, he sat down with your former boss, Boris Johnson, today, and I wanted to get your take on what Boris said. Have a look at this.
I have confidence in the Conservatives, and I have confidence in the energy and combativeness of Kemi.
But the public don't seem to agree with you right now.
Let's see.
But Farage is quite an operator, though, isn't he?
I think, well, you know, my concerns, as I say, and they're serious concerns, are about the approach to the economy of the Reform Party and the approach on national security. And I think both of those will be severely tested in the years ahead, and people will actually want serious answers. And I think that the answers are going to be Conservative answers.
So Farage is either a joke or a threat to national security, or both? Which one is it?
I think, as I say, I think there are two real priorities for us now. The number one is the economy, and making sure that we shrink the size of the state and public spending.
It's not a question I asked, but is Nigel Farage a threat?
And the second,
you're saying it's a threat to national security.
And the second is defence and national security and the threat of Russia. And on both of those, I have very serious anxieties.
And Nigel Farage is a threat to national security.
I have serious anxieties. I'm putting it in Diplo speak, right? I have serious anxieties.
You're a former journalist. I want it as an intro, not diplomatic waffle.
So there you go, Jay. I've got long, but your thoughts on Boris Johnson, your former boss, saying that Nigel Farage is extremely dangerous on Russia and reform are a threat to national security.
Well, as well as being my former boss, he's a very good mate of mine as well, so I better be a bit careful what I say. I think to put a Borisism to it, I mean, I think that's complete and utter piffle. And I think what's
an inverted pyramid of piffle.
Inverted pyramid of piffle, as Boris would say. Yeah. I think what's quite interesting is, I mean, first of all, he's there, he's on a mission. I know we've talked about it, he is a big supporter of Kemi, and he's there to sort of flog the dead horse that is usually go out and vote for Kemi. That's a horse I gave up flogging some time ago.
I know you did.
But I think what's really interesting, and you can see that Davies' speech to the Liberal Democrat conference yesterday, where I think he mentioned Keir Starmer once and Nigel Farage was 90 times or 90.
So it was his speech. It was 33 times. It's a single speech. Yeah, living rent free in his head. I hate that expression, but he is, isn't he?
Keir Starmer's apparently doing an interview with the newspapers tomorrow where he's reclaiming the flag.
Yeah.
And he's going to be talking about Nigel Farage. And you know, the entirety of the establishment are terrified by the idea that you will have a political party that they don't control, that will come to power and will say, look, we need to do things differently. We don't care about how things have been done in the past. We have got one mission and we are going to act in Britain's national interest. And I just think the establishment, all parts of it, former prime ministers, long legacy political parties like the Lib Dems and the Conservatives, are absolutely terrified. And I think that shows the British people, who are desperate for change, that they are on the right track. So the more scared they become, the more people should support reform. Always, as they say in Dad's Army, the establishment don't like it up 'em.
Yeah, exactly right. Jake, really good to talk to you. Come on again soon. That's Sir Jake Berry, former chair of the Conservative Party, big mate of Boris Johnson, and now, of course, of Reform UK. Let me know what you think about Boris Johnson and what he said about Nigel Farage. Very dangerous on Russia, a threat to national security. Really? Really? Do you think the Tories, is he backing the right horse, the Tories? Really? Really? 03444991000. We're going to go to break now. We'll take a couple of phone calls. And later on, well, in a few minutes now, we're going to talk about the ship of fools as Doom Goblin Greta Thunberg sails towards Gaza with a mutiny on board the ship. So that next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take a quick call, then we'll talk about Greta Thunberg. So let's talk to Andy in Hull. Hello, Andy.
Yeah, hi, Kev. Good evening.
Yeah, what would you like to say, Andy?
Yeah, it's this rubbish about the rights of being able to see the same doctor and being able to travel 250 miles or whatever.
Yeah, and the rest. Apparently some journeys were even longer than that.
Yeah, well, I live in Hull, as you know. I've moved in my lifetime probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Each time I've moved, I've had to change GP surgeries because...
Yeah, we all do, don't we?
We're out of our catchment.
That's a really good point.
Where this right to see the same doctor comes from, God only knows. It's another one of these.
It's a really good point, Andy. Yeah, I mean,
these illegals get more rights than we do.
But also, Andy, a very good point. I couldn't agree with you more. I hadn't thought about that. When we move, we don't get the right to go back to see our former doctor. But also, under the Home Office rules, for some reason, these migrants, when they make these, as you suggest, unnecessary journeys back to see their previous doctors, they're not allowed to go by train. Even the migrants think that's crazy. I'm not sure. I have no idea why that would be the case. I would, now that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, is investigating this scandal, hopefully they'll stop that madness and, if necessary, at least save millions of pounds sending them by train. But better still, as you suggest, how about they just switch to the local GP where their new hotel is? What about that?
Exactly. I was told when I wanted to stay at a particular GP's a few years ago, and they said, "Oh no, you're out the catchment area." And I said, "Well, fair enough, but I don't mind travelling to see the GP." They said that isn't the case. It's if you're too ill to travel and the GP has to come out and see you, he won't travel that distance because he's out of his area. And that was the reason I was given for not being able to...
Yeah. I mean, also, the other point, Andy, is I don't know what your local GP is like. Mine is actually quite good, I think, but loads of people really struggle to see their local MP, just a GP, or even get a phone call through to their local GP. And yet these migrants, are given this kind of VIP treatment. Here's a Mercedes, climb in the back, which is going to drive you 250 miles. The cab fare will be £600. Here's your former doctor, no problem at all. It's just all wrong, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, the other thing that I wanted to mention...
Very quickly, Andy, because I've got to go on.
This government's all about the green agenda.
Yeah.
What's green about a taxi?
You see...
600 miles on a round trip.
Andy, I should have had you around while I was preparing the show. You just made two very, very good points. I bet you these cabs are not electric, they're not eco. So, yeah, they're ruining unnecessary journeys, polluting the atmosphere. Very well said. Two great points, Andy. Thanks for calling. Call me again. Andy in Hull there. Let's go to break now. And when we come back, we'll talk about the ship of fools, the doom goblin, Greta Thunberg's problem-plagued flotilla. Mercy flotilla sailing to Gaza. There's mutiny on board. It's hilarious. Let's talk about that next. Stay tuned.
confess I was a bit bemused by the surprise that was shown by quite a lot of commentators about his speech yesterday, particularly in relation to Ukraine, because he changes his mind every 5 minutes. So, he seems to be on side for Ukraine today, but who knows where he'll be in a couple of months' time. And what was striking about his comments in that regard, of course, was he didn't say where the money was going to come from, and he's made it very clear that he expects Europe to look after issues in its own backyard. And, I have some sympathy with that view.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, it's been a very serious show so far, so let's have a bit of comedy, shall we? Let's talk about doom goblin Greta Thunberg, who used to campaign to save the world. Eco-maniac she was. Now, all of her protesting energies seem to focus on Gaza. So you remember she tried to sail there recently and got intercepted and was kicked out of Israel because she refused to be jailed. Some of her braver compadres actually went to jail rather than agree to be deported. But Doom Goblin Greta was made of not so stern stuff. So she's doing it again. There's a convoy heading there. In fact, about 20 vessels displaying Palestinian flags are on their way across the Mediterranean, having departed from Barcelona. They stopped for a few days in Tunisia to pick up more activists and humanitarian supplies. It's called the Global Sumud Flotilla, GSF. But this is what's funny. Is there's chaos on board. Now, Greta was the captain of the ship. She's renounced her skippership because the convoy, the Mercy Flotilla, has descended into chaos because pro-Palestine activists, Muslims, are quitting the convoy and are furious after learning that there are LGBTQ campaigners on board. Greta, as I say, she stopped being the captain because she's so upset upon discovering that her Muslim friends are not especially liberal about gay rights, not as liberal about gay rights as she'd like. So we've got woke on woke war on board the Ship of Fools. Let's talk to psychologist and narcissism expert Richard Grannon. Good to have you back on the show, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Is Greta Thunberg a narcissist?
Well, I can certainly see lots of chaotic, narcissistic behavior playing out here. Inevitably, in these groups, everybody starts to fail the purity tests of the orthodoxy, and then they start turning on themselves and on each other, don't they? So this is known. The narcissistic personality disorder, in the American definition, is in the cluster B constellation, which is also called the dramatic cluster of disorders. There's always drama with these people, always drama.
Well, what's hilarious about this is you've got kind of a clash of cultures. So apparently these 20 boats, or some of them, they say they've been attacked by drones and stuff like that. Of course, they won't be allowed to get anywhere near Gaza. It's totally performative, and no doubt the poor Israelis will have to go out and intercept them and arrest them all again. But poor Ms. Thunberg has learned that some of the Muslim protesters that they took on board in Tunisia especially, they're not exactly warmly disposed towards the LGBTQ protesters who are on board. So there's this sort of clash of cultures. So Greta wants them all to be lovey-dovey and friends. However, the Muslims are not particularly liberally disposed towards the gay rights campaigners. So in high dudgeon, in a temper fit, apparently Greta has stopped being the captain of the ship. So it's all falling apart at the seams.
There is research that's been done, good research by two researchers called Crispins and Bertrams, and they're looking particularly at woke and left-wing authoritarians specifically, and they're finding when they do the research and they replicate it that there is extremely high amounts of narcissism, psychopathy, and dark tetrad traits, which means you've got people who are high in Machiavellianism and sadism as well. And they've put forward this idea that when it comes to political movements, they call it the dark ego vehicle principle. And it basically means the people who are running the political movements haven't got a clue about the actual ideology of the people that they represent or the people that they're allying with. Yeah. They're just using them for exhibitionistic displays of narcissism.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I don't know about everybody else on this flotilla, but we do know that Greta went once before. Whereupon they were intercepted for their own safety. They can't get anywhere near Gaza. It's dangerous there. The Israelis came out, intercepted them for their own safety, took them into Israel, and basically tried to fly them out just said, we'll fly you out. But several of them, to their credit, I suppose, bravely said, no, we refuse. We're making a stand. So they were put in jail. I don't know what's happened to them now. Greta Thunberg, of course, she took the chance to fly out. She didn't stick around. But her going back again, you know, on what she knows as a complete lost cause, this just looks to me as a way for her to get into the papers. She knows that in no way whatsoever will this performative nonsense help the poor people of Gaza, will it? So it's all about her, isn't it?
Well, I think that's where we can say, look, obviously, I'm not a clinician. I've never met her. I can't diagnose her, but I can see narcissistic patterns of behavior. If you know full well and good that what you're doing is merely an empty gesture, that is literally virtue signaling. You're just signaling a virtue. You know it's doing no good for the people on the ground you pretend to care about. In fact, it's probably diverting resources and attention away from those people. So, no, it's purely performative, and it's absolutely standard. It's what we expect. And even this massive internal conflict, when you have a bunch of people who are displaying cluster B personality behaviors, I'm not surprised that they're falling out with each other at all.
Exactly right. Now, what about her volte face? What does this add up to psychologically? That you know, she's a big campaigner, green campaigner, save the planet. How dare you? You're killing us. The planet will be drowned by 2024. How did that work out for you, Gret? Not very well. She suddenly switched, and all her focus of her fury and campaigning zeal now focuses on Gaza. She seems to have forgotten about the planet, and she's now just focusing on one part of the planet, the Gaza Strip.
So that would be another example of behavior that we can identify as being somewhat narcissistic. There is no moral core to the belief system. It's whatever gets me attention and validation today. And if the big issue today is this, then I'll do that. The big issue tomorrow, whatever the big issue tomorrow is, she'll jump right in front of that as well, which I think, personally, indicates that she's more interested in gathering narcissistic supply and attention than actually doing any real good in the world, as so many activists in this sphere have been proven to be. I mean, they're just using the activism as a way of getting attention.
Is she essentially, Richard, addicted to fame? She likes being in the papers, doesn't she?
I mean, it looks that way at this point. I don't know what it would have done to her developing brain when she was so young and she got so much attention so quickly, but I'm sure, with the neuroplasticity being so high at the age at which that happened, I would have thought that she would be calibrated now to needing way more attention than a normal person would, yes.
Yeah, and she does seem to get it, but not perhaps the kind of attention that she really likes, considering we just laugh about her. Listen, Richard, we tried to get you on the other week, but you were away on one of your exotic trips, but you must come on the show more. I always remember you and I trying Meghan's jam. Do you remember
lovely
that?
Jam.
Yeah.
The lovely jam.
The narcissistic scam jam. Richard, great to talk to you. Thank you, mate. That's Richard Grannon, psychologist and narcissism expert on Greta Thunberg. When we come back, we're going to talk about Ed Davey and Keir Starmer and their mutual obsession with Nigel Farage. It is weird. We'll focus on that after the news. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about 20 minutes or so, going to be taking your calls. I'll read some of your messages and, of course, your WhatsApp voice notes. So all that's still to come. 03444991000. You know what we're talking about. I've just noticed, we're going to talk about Nigel Farage now. I've just seen a story that he says, the Reform UK leader, says that migrants living in the UK have been taking carp and swans, which are protected species, from ponds in Britain's royal parks and then killing them. He said, if I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different, would you agree it is happening here? The royal parks, that includes, by the way, Londoners will know this, like Regent's Park, Hyde Park. These are essentially, I don't know around the country, but I do know they are the main London parks. They've got big ponds full of swans. Nigel says that migrants are going in there and taking them, killing them and eating them. Reminds me of that Donald Trump thing. Remember that? They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats and the people that live there during the campaign. Royal Parks has rejected Nigel Farage's claim. Well, I'll tell you a story tomorrow. I do know of a good friend of mine who has witnessed this sort of thing. I don't think it was at a royal park, but I'll tell you about it. Anyway, and the RSPCA has also poured cold water on Nigel's claims. But he says this is happening. And I mean, I only tell that story because it's a pretty eye-catching story anyway. But also, it just sort of highlights, pinpoints Nigel Farage's talent for making headlines, for getting talked about. And that's a very, very important talent to have in the world of politics. Now, what we're going to talk about now is, as I said at the beginning of the show, I hate this phrase, but I have to use it, I'm afraid. Nigel Farage is living rent-free. I hate that phrase. He's living rent-free in the heads of our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. We know about that. And also the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey. I want to talk about this. Both of them have an obsession with Nigel Farage. And we know why, don't we? It's because Nigel Farage is on the up. There's a momentum behind him. People are responding to him. So both Starmer and Davey, as his political opponents, have made it their raison d'etre, their mission, to try to demonise Nigel Farage. The only thing is that both of them, particularly Ed Davey, are making absolute fools of themselves. Let's introduce political correspondent at the Times and the Sunday Times, John Boothman. Welcome, John.
How you doing, Kevin?
Good to have you on board. Well, look, bear with us and let's play a few clips. You're going to like this one. This is Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, in his concluding speech at the Bournemouth party conference for the Lib Dems. Check this out.
Farage, Nigel Farage, give Farage so much time and attention. Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage's Britain, Nigel, and Farage's Britain, Farage's Britain. The threat that reform now poses to our country and our democracy. Farage's Britain, Nigel Farage.
So, yes, John, in that speech to the Lib Dem faithful in Bournemouth, I believe it was yesterday, the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, mentioned Nigel Farage 33 times. So I think he feels somewhat threatened. The Prime Minister on Friday is due to give a speech. It's his new obsession, reclaiming the flag from the far right. That will, of course, focus on Farage. We know about Keir Starmer's obsession with Farage. Why do both of these guys have this obsession, do you think, John?
Look, they're completely afraid of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage won, 5 seats, I think now reduced to 4 at the general election last year. He's now running, 10 points, is it, ahead of Labour? Certainly a number of points ahead of Labour in the opinion polls, up around 30%. So, yeah, they've much to fear for Nigel Farage, but there's a real quandary for any of these political parties, which is the more they talk about Farage, the more publicity he gets. So they tried to ignore him for a bit. Ignoring him didn't work, and now they're talking about him all the time. And because they're talking about him all the time, the more exposure he gets.
Yeah, exactly right. And old Ed Davey, you see, Farage, I think, understands the British people, the common man, if you like, and woman, I should say. And he gels with them. What he says, people respond to it. Now, perhaps I'm not representative of people all over the country, but I think maybe I'm slightly clued in. But when old Ed Davey said, under Nigel Farage, Britain will become like Trump's America. And I thought to myself, well, it works for me. Yeah, good. I'll vote for Farage then. So do you see what I mean?
That's one way of looking at it. I mean, look, one of the things that I think you're entirely correct to say, that actually, like Trump, Farage talks the language of ordinary people. And actually, any of the other traditional party leaders, and that's if anybody, of course, knows who Ed Davey is, right? And I don't say that lightly. People know who Nigel Farage is. If you were to do a poll in the street of how many people knew who Sir Ed Davey was, you'd probably, be struggling a bit for a lot of people to identify who he is. And the fact is that people on the right of politics, as I say, whether it's in the UK or whether it's in the US, talk the language of ordinary people. It's the language that people understand. It's the language they talk themselves. Maybe other politicians don't particularly like it, but look, it resonates with ordinary folk. I mean, I listened to Ed Davey there, evoking, I remember John, do you remember John Major back, I think, in the 80s, talking about warm beer and leather on willow and all that? I mean, I heard Ed Davey today talking about, Britain being a country of fish and chips and village greens and cricket pavilions and all that.
If only, John, if only.
No, not really, not anymore, right?
Exactly.
I just don't think that it's the kind of language that resonates with people. Look, if Ed Davey's got partly a point, right, it's that, I mean, I noticed he was complaining about the BBC the other day. Ed Davey feels a bit hard done to. He won 72 seats last year. As I said earlier, Reform won 5. But the fact of the matter is, Ed Davey's not a newsmaker. He's not somebody who, has got a great turn of phrase. He's reduced to sort of, I don't know, climbing up poles, coming down
water sports. He's a big fan of water sports, falling off canoes and things like that.
Yeah, running around the other day, right, with a red sash and a marching band behind it. I mean, sorry, if you're reduced to having to do that to get a hearing, you're not in a very good place.
Yeah.
And, that applies to some of the other party leaders as well. It applies to Kemi Badenoch. That nobody wants to hear from the Tories. They've heard it all before. I keep saying in Scotland that if, certainly in Scotland, and I'm sure this is the case for other parts of the UK, if Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa were the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, they still wouldn't get a hearing. People don't want to hear from them. And that, as well as the point I'm making about language and speaking the language of ordinary people, is just so important in terms of political communication.
Exactly right. When you see Nigel Farage having a pint, you know that he's enjoying a pint. Probably a cigarette as well, knowing him. When you see Ed Davey drinking a pint, it's performative, it's for the cameras. Look, I'm a man of the people, enjoying my pint. Just as soon as the camera's shut, he'll move on to some glass of extremely expensive Bordeaux or something like that. What did you make of Ed Davey's extraordinary claim in that Nigel Farage strewn speech that he made at the party conference, that Farage will roll back gun laws and turn Britain into Trump's America. And extraordinarily, he said, British children will be forced to undergo drills to prepare for mass shootings if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister. That's pretty desperate, isn't it?
Well, I can see what Ed Davey's trying to do. Ed Davey's trying to say Trump's not particularly popular with huge sections of people in Britain, soft conservatives, for example, that he might be trying to entice. So associate Trump with Farage and maybe some people will come in his direction. However, I think the things that you're saying, this stuff about, relaxing gun laws, I mean, nobody believes that, right?
It's nonsense. It's desperate.
It's
desperate. It's desperate.
It's as comedians in Scotland would say, it's a bit too far.
Exactly right. Now, let's move on to old Starmer. He's going to make this speech. His new obsession is reclaiming the flag. Reclaim the flag from far-right organisations. So, reclaim the flag. He's going to make a big speech on Friday. And he's going to say that the St George's and Union flags are for all of us and should be symbols of unity. He also is obsessed with Nigel Farage, isn't he? This speech will also attack, this is what I find interesting, this Prime Minister's speech on Friday will attack the rise of divisive populism. Now, what I always find interesting is, populism, if you define, the actual definition of populism is policies that are popular with the people. Of course, that's anathema to someone like Keir Starmer because he has no idea how to come up with popular policies. But this idea, that it's always, isn't it? It's always unpopular politicians that attack populism. I never quite get it. I mean, I know you can say, oh, well, Hitler was a populist, Mussolini was a populist. But to just say, oh, you're a populist, well, the real tenor of that accusation is you're the sort of politician who comes up with policies that people like. I hate you. Do you know what I mean? It's unpopular politicians always attack populism.
Well, we're only, 14 months or something away from the last general election, and there was a good dose of populism in the stuff that Keir Starmer was saying for a couple of years before that. To be honest, I mean, the flags issue I'm interested in. I mean, he may say that you want to reclaim the Union flag and reclaim the St George's Cross, but you know what? That'll go down well in England, perhaps. It certainly won't go down in Scotland very well, nor in Wales, nor in among some sections of people in Northern Ireland. The whole flag thing I find really quite odd. Simply in the basis that, in recent weeks in Scotland, we've seen the saltire being displayed along lampposts, and the people who are displaying those saltires on lampposts are widely regarded as people as being on the right and anti-immigration, and it's put the SNP in a bit of a quandary because they think the saltire, the Scottish flag, is their flag. So they're saying take them down, when it's like, wait a minute, so the Scottish flag's okay as long as it's them that puts it up, but if other Scottish people who believe something else put it up, then they've not to have it. So dangerous and funny old business, the stuff about flags, and I don't see at the end of the day, right, reclaiming the flag for somebody like Starmer wins them any votes or weigh anybody very much, to be quite honest.
Also, John, was it 2 weeks ago, there was the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Estimations of the crowd vary from about 110,000 to 500,000. I think it was I was actually down there for a while, not taking part. I was on my way to the football, but I did go through the middle of it. And I would say that the crowd was somewhere between the two, possibly 300,000, maybe as many as 500,000. A huge crowd. But you saw it. It was a mass of Union Jacks and St George's flags. And yet the Prime Minister wanted to depict this entire demonstration, this protest against his government as, a convergence of the far right. Well, it just wasn't. Yes, Tommy Robinson was involved. Yes, Tommy Robinson did quite a lot of the organising, but I saw it, and I know a lot of people who went. They're not far right. This was actually people from all walks of life coming together to protest about this dreadful government we've got. Not talking about their politics, I'm talking about their competence. It was a protest against their incompetence. And Starmer's sort of urge every time he sees a flag or he sees protests to say they're all Tommy Robinsons is his downfall. It was his mistake during the Southport riots to say every protester was far right. Everybody who opposes him, he wants to depict as far right, and he should get out of that habit because it doesn't do him any good.
I think what happens in these situations, look, don't get me wrong, you know, there are obviously some elements in any of these demonstrations that are problematic, but I think when you see 150,000 or whatever the estimate happens to be, people marching in the street, you know there's an issue there, and it's an issue that ordinary people around about the country actually care about. Look, you don't need to look any further than any opinion polls that tell us that, you know, 2 years ago, the NHS and the economy by a country mile were the big issues that dominated any of the political discourse in this country and the things that people really care about. All over the country now, you see in any of these polls now that immigration is right up there, for good or for ill. That's where it is, and people have got very strong opinions on it. And if the Prime Minister depicts you know, all of the people who are concerned and worried about these issues again for good or for ill, the fact of the matter is all he's going to do is alienate people.
Yeah, and one other thing, he just has this habit. He wants to demonise crowds that protest against him, against Labour, against the migration crisis. He has this habit, and he actually talks about in this the Unite the Kingdom march, attended by, let's agree on, say, 250,000, he talked about unacceptable scenes of violence against the police. So let's say there were 250,000 people there. Do you know how many arrests there were? 25. And one thing I did see in my brief encounter with that march was a load of cops standing around, bored out of their heads, because it wasn't violence. It was a party atmosphere. It was quite a nice family event to a large degree. So he says, oh, scenes of unacceptable violence, far right. He does himself no favours, does he?
Look, you look at where Starmer is in the opinion polls now. This stuff is getting to a place where he's in a very difficult situation. This isn't going to be a good conference for Starmer at all. We all know already that the budget is going to be a bit of a car crash. You've already got people like Andy Burnham lining up effectively to start to, you know, put it into people's heads that perhaps there needs to be somebody else. My prediction about where Starmer goes is, you know, depending on what happens in the May elections next year, the local elections in England, the Scottish election and the Welsh election, that let's see if he lasts beyond that. I can't see any possibility of Starmer leading Labour into the next general election.
Yeah, I think very significantly, I don't know if you've seen the new edition of the New Statesman, the sort of Labour Bible, as it were. Huge, grinning, kind of film star picture of Andy Burnham on the front, you know, forward with Britain and all this kind of stuff. So the Labour elite, I think, are gathering around Burnham as a possible replacement. Can I just get, before you go, John, great to talk to you, by the way. Thanks for coming on. A quick comment from you talking about going forward with Keir Starmer and his potentially dubious future. What do you make of the Morgan McSweeny situation? Do you think Morgan McSweeny is close to the abyss?
Well, I think so, because, you know, Starmer's defended him, Starmer appointed him, he's been with Starmer all along, but look, at the end of the day, Starmer needs a shield at the moment, and I just think he's, you know, he's the guy in between Starmer going and being in trouble, and I can't see him really lasting, to be honest. Somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb in that. everything that's gone on from day one that they came into government. You know, fantastically well prepared for the election, fantastically ill prepared for government.
Yep.
The first thing they did was get into bother about suits and about specs, and then a month later the winter fuel payment, and it's been all downhill ever since.
Yeah.
And if McSweeney's the main strategist round about that, then he's the guy that has to go.
Yeah, and Starmer's particular problem, if McSweeny goes, he's already got Angela Rayner peeing outside the tent, throwing bricks at him, signs that she will hook up with Andy Burnham in a return to sort of power. Also, of course, very dangerously, Peter Mandelson, who's furious with the Prime Minister, he's peeing outside the tent. If you add to those two Morgan McSweeny peeing outside the tent, I think that's it. Starmer's over. Fascinating times, John, and great to talk to you. Thank you so much. John Boothman, political correspondent at The Times and The Sunday Times. What do you reckon on all that? You know, Davy's obsession. Oh, school kids are going to need to learn drills about mass shootings because Nigel Farage will allow complete lack of gun control in this country, and we will turn into Trump's America. I mean, in many respects, I say good for that, but what a load of nonsense. 03444991000. Your calls, your messages, and your WhatsApp voice notes when we return. Stick around.
I must confess, I was a bit bemused by the surprise that was shown by quite a lot of commentators about his speech yesterday, particularly in relation to Ukraine, because he changes his mind every 5 minutes. So, he seems to be on side for Ukraine today, but who knows where he'll be in a couple of months' time. And what was striking about his comments in that regard, of course, was he didn't say where the money was going to come from, and he's made it very clear that he expects Europe to look after issues in its own backyard. And, I have some sympathy with that view.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Before we go to your calls and just your messages, I want to play you this, and maybe you want to call in about it because it's pretty atrocious. We're talking about the flag campaigns, the people putting up flags on lampposts. Well, I drove to Cornwall recently and back for my vacation. There were flags everywhere, hanging off all the bridges, St George's, Union Jacks. I think it's a great thing, but a lot of Labour people don't like this. They call it nationalism, as if that's terrible. And this is a guy, he's the leader of Hertsmere Borough Council. That's near Watford, apparently, in Hertfordshire. He is called Jeremy Newmark. Here's his take on people who are campaigning for us to love our flag again and hanging flags on lampposts. Take it away, Jeremy Newmark.
Operation Raise the Colours, an organised and orchestrated attempt by a bunch of criminals, extremists, nonces, to hijack our national flag.
What do you think of that? This is, Raise the Colours. The people campaigning to bring back our flag, make our flag a symbol of pride, national pride. He says people who are doing that are nonces and criminals. That's the view from Labour, it really is. Let me know what you think about that, 03444991000. Let's play a quick WhatsApp voice note. This is Carl on One In, One Out.
Hi, Kevin. I've just been thinking, something like 10 days, they managed to get 4 people out of the country. But they've just brought 3 in today and they're now legal. I believe they're a family. So where are they going to live? Are they going to be given a house? So we managed to get rid of 3 people who are illegal, who are just living in an hotel, which obviously isn't ideal. But now we've actually brought 3 people in who have stopped a British citizen getting a house, who's maybe sat on the waiting list for 3 years. And we're giving them loads of money because they've got a family and they come over legally and they can now bring dependents in as well. So it's actually worse. We're actually worse off.
Well, Carl, welcome to the lunatic asylum we call the migrant crisis. Yes, very good points. Totally agree. I wonder where that family have been billeted. Have they been given a house ahead of British citizens who've probably been waiting years? Probably. But don't forget that brings the score. We've got 4 migrants out in a scheme, 1 in, 1 out. The scheme started in early August. 4 out, 3 in. So we're ahead by 1. We're winning. Britain is winning by 1 migrant. How ridiculous. Let's go to the phones and talk to Derek in Cornwall. Hello, Derek. What would you like to say?
Hello, Kevin. It's I was listening to that clip from the Home Secretary earlier, saying it's cost effective to give them £2,000 take a flight back to where they came from, rather than have them challenge all the with the legal routes. Overall, then why not just go out in the middle of the channel, offer them all £10,000 to go back to France? 50,000 would only cost about 500 million. And them will be quids in.
Do you know what, Derek? That's a really good point. By Shabana Mahmood's logic, it's cheaper to give them £2,000 and then fly them at great expense back home, rather than let them stay here and fight their cases to stay, put them in prison or whatever. Great idea. So these migrants who come across in a dinghy, when they get to Dover or whatever, say, all right, here's...
Well, not even Dover,
halfway across. Give them £2,000. No, you say £5,000. Why 5? Give them 2. Same as the deportations to... That'll do it. Here's £2,000. Go back. It's cheaper than to let them come to the country.
We could even give it in euros.
There you go. So they could use it the moment they get back to Calais. I think it's a great idea. Why not? Why not? Good idea, Derek. Thank you very much.
All right.
Good to talk. Call me again. That's Derek in Cornwall with an excellent idea. Somebody, I've got Chris in Worthing, suggests that all this business with the taxis, do you think that, millions of pounds £350,000 a month to one taxi firm from their home office, ferrying £600 fares, 250 miles. Chris suggested you think some kind of matey somewhere in the civil service might be getting a backhander from these cab firms. Well, I perish the thought. You might think that, Chris, but I couldn't possibly comment. But I'm not. My feeling is it's just incompetence, not corruption. It's slapdash, incompetent, ridiculous, but probably, strangely, not corrupt. But I could be wrong. Here's Ricky from Dudley says, what is PTS? That's the company, the cab firm. It was the snappy name. PTS 247, the one getting 350 grand a month. He says, what does PTS stand for? It is Public Taxpayers Service. Yeah, it is. It certainly is. We're paying for it. Somebody here suggesting, Mark in Essex says that PTS 247 is owned by Muslim immigrants. I have no idea about that. I have no idea about it. This country is being bled dry and being taken for a ride by foreign nationals, says Mark in Essex. As I say, I don't know about the veracity of that at all, but that's what he's saying. Quick WhatsApp voice note. Scott, one in, one out.
Here is a funny scenario, Kev. A bloke from Romania and his family have a lovely little holiday in northern France. Sends his wife and kids back home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get on a dinghy, go over to England, go up to the Home Office and say, look, I want to volunteer to go home. I'm an illegal immigrant. I'll get a free flight home, $2 grand in a pocket, and our holiday's just been paid for. It's a stupid scenario, but then again, this government is stupid, isn't it? It's like, are we living in a Monty Python sketch or something?
I think we are, Scott. It really is mad. A lot of people said about these rapists and murderers that were flying back to Romania and giving them $2 grand. They could sort of get to the airport, sort of mill around a bit, and then buy themselves a ticket back to London for about 500 quid, maybe less. And they're 1,500 quid in profit. So, yeah, as you say, we're in a Monty Python sketch. You couldn't make this stuff up, could you? Let's talk to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
Good evening, Kev. Great show, mate.
Thank you.
I've got 4 things to comment on. I'll try and get through.
OK, don't be too long, as quick as you can.
Well, don't interrupt.
Yeah, go on.
Detail. 1 in, 1 out, right? First of all, we've sent 4 out, but we've only had... the ones that came in today, the 3 in a family, counts as 1 because they only count the man. Because
I'm just saying numerically, it doesn't really matter, but you know, we are winning by 1 numerically, Chris. We're 1 up. Brilliant, isn't it?
Well, it's not in the same. We've still got 3 more to come for the 4 we've sent out. So also the ones we send out, the ones that come in, get immediate indefinite leave to remain, so they get open benefits, housing and everything else. And you hadn't picked up on this, the ones that we send over to France, we have to pay France for their accommodation and food.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm trying to get hold of more detail, but that is absolutely right.
I don't know about the again. I'm pretty ill-informed today, aren't I? But I don't know about the veracity of that. But if you say so, Chris.
No, listen.
No, I'm not. I'm accepting what you say. Yeah.
Right. Also.
Point 3.
Trump. Right. He was. Even if you disagree with a couple of the words in his speech, I mean, he played a blinder.
It was a great speech. I thought it was a great speech.
They stopped the escalator halfway up. Right, so they had to walk up. Then he was given.
And then the telly, but the auto cue didn't work, and they're looking into whether or not he was deliberately sabotaged, aren't they? Yeah.
And so he went on for 47 minutes, and he absolutely wiped the floor with them.
Stormed it.
Right.
Stormed it.
Their faces were a picture. Now the council leader from
Jeremy Newmark. Yeah.
Watch the video again and look at the girl behind him on the left-hand side.
Okay, yeah.
She buries her head in her face in her hand.
Oh, does she? You can't use in that circumstance. You can't turn around and call these people nonces. You know, it's just.
Well, he's actually called me a nonce because I belong to the Epsom and Ewell flag raisers, and we've got a GoFundMe page, and the locals put money in. We buy flags. We put hundreds up right around the Epsom and Ewell, which is a Liberal Democrat. area, which
my
they don't like very much.
sympathies.
Yes, they took the ones down outside Kingston Town Hall. So we're actually going back and putting them back up again, but we're going to put a bat box up because they're not allowed to interfere with a bat box.
Oh, good.
Because they're protected.
Good for you. Good for you.
Now, the next thing is something that you knew about, but you've forgotten about because it's.
Well, I have a mind like a sieve, Chris. So what have I forgotten?
No, I was banging on about this 17 years ago, right? It is now 31 years that the auditors have refused to sign off the accounts of the EU.
Is that right?
Yeah, and if you want to look at the accounts, all right, they're held underneath the government building, and you go down there, and they take all the electronic equipment off of you. You're given a notepad and a pencil, and you're allowed 1 hour. And it takes months and months and months to get permission to go in there. It's a Ponzi scheme.
Right, we'll have a look into that. Well, Chris, that's 4 great points. It's always good to talk to you, and thank you so much. We'll have a look into all of those. Chris in Epsom there with lots and lots of points. Let's quickly play another WhatsApp voice note, shall we? Steve, and this is on the mega mosque up in Cumbria.
Evening, Kevin. Why are they building a mega mosque in a rural area? Well, I'll tell you this. Why? This is basically the Labour government's vision for the future for the whole country. And, of course, the main man himself, Sadiq Khan, has already said about his disdain for the green belt and rural areas, how much he hates it and that. So that won't be the last either, will it? This is the beginning of what Labour's big grand plan is to change the face of Britain. Mark my words.
I mean, you know, it's a good point, Steve. I mean, there are a lot of people are worried about this. This kind of, what's the word, cultural takeover. That's what people are worried about. And if you go up to some of the towns and cities in the north, it's pretty obvious what's going on. Here we go. This is from Zarina. I don't blame the migrants anymore. I do, however, blame entirely this situation entirely on the people who run our country, the so-called experts, the people with power and knowledge. The absurdity of the migrant crisis is truly laughable. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't blame the migrants. I mean, you know, their chances, they're trying to get a better life, trying to get a better job and make some more money or, you know, get some benefits. I mean, I don't blame them per se, but you know, they are breaking our laws, the ones that come across the channel, and it seems strange to me that we don't treat them like the criminals they are. We just embrace them. We give them everything that we possibly can and treat them like visiting VIPs. Here's one from John. Kevin, if people can travel all the way from parts of Africa or countries like Afghanistan and cross the channel on a dinghy, then surely they can get a bus or a train to a medical appointment. It's ridiculous. It's good that. It's a good point. You know, these are... You know, whatever you think about these people that come across the channel, they're pretty ingenious, and they have made long, arduous journeys across continents through dangerous countries. And when they get here, we say, oh, well, we can't possibly risk putting them on a train. Let's get them a Mercedes. So very good point by John. If they can make these long, arduous, difficult journeys, why do they need to be mollycoddled with cab rides, 200-mile cab rides to their former doctors? Let's speak to Richard in St Helens. Hello, Richard.
Hey, Kev. Good show, mate. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you lot on talk.
Thank you. Thank you. What would you like to say, mate?
Jeremy Newmark. What a bloke. I think he should lose his job and then have a spell in Nick like poor Lucy Connolly.
I think it's. I met Lucy last week. I don't know if you saw my interview, but I sat down with her.
No, I didn't know.
It's on YouTube, mate. I recommend it. Tell all your friends. But I sat down with her for 45 minutes. The very notion that lady was put in jail, because one of the reasons you put people in jail is because they are seen as a threat or a danger to society.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, 2 minutes with Lucy Connolly and you just go, that is ridiculous. I mean, she's just a nice, I mean, I don't use this in a pejorative way, a nice, normal lady, very intelligent as well. So absolutely ridiculous that she was jailed, and absolutely ridiculous that a council leader, the leader of Labour, in Hertsmere, Jeremy Newmark, should use terms like nonces and criminals about people who are just trying to show pride in our flags. Absolutely outrageous. That, though, Richard, is the view from Labour. That's the way they think about it. They think flags equal nationalism. Nationalism to them is bad. Listen, mate, good to talk to you. Thanks for a good call. Well, I've got one more WhatsApp voice note. This is Jez on the Mega Mosque.
Hey Kevin, this mega mosque up in the Lake District, it's obvious why it is where it is and why it's the size it is. It is meant to dominate the landscape. It is meant to make a statement. It is meant to say we can do what we like, where we like, when we like.
Interesting take that, Jez. I mean, it is extremely prominent. You know, it's out there. You know, it is a building that's making a statement. But then again, churches, religious buildings deliberately make statements because it's, you know, to honour their gods, their God or Allah or whatever your particular deity of choice is. And, yeah, so it's making a statement, but it's making a statement in the wrong place. By the way, on what we were just told about migrants, us paying for migrants when we return them to France, I don't know if this particularly clears it up, but it's, at least it is some information on what happens to the migrants that we send back to France on the one-in, one-out deal. 4 of them so far. Whoop-de-doo, 4. Migrants returned to France under the one-in, one-out deal will have access to 3 days of emergency accommodation. Now, and that news comes from the French refugee charity Utopia 56. So that doesn't look as if Britain will be paying for the migrants we return to France. So I'll look into that. As I say, was it Chris from Epsom said, oh yeah, we're going to be paying for them forever. I'm not sure if that's true, so we will have to look into that. But that's interesting, isn't it? This charity, Utopia 56, saying they get 3 days of emergency accommodation. Tends to indicate that perhaps they have to look after themselves. Well, they should, if you ask me. Here's a text from Steve. Evening, Kev. Trump would be... Yeah, Trump wouldn't be giving the migrants $2,000. He'd be putting them in handcuffs and sending them home. That's backbone. Exactly. I mean, that's what the thing is. You know, Shabala Mahmood. Oh, it's cheaper to give them $2,000 and send them back on a very expensive plane ride. I'm sure that's true, but I think that's a humiliation for this nation. You know, show a bit of steel, a bit of metal. A bit of backbone. Oh, hello, murderer. Hello, rapist. If we give you £2,000, could you go home? Would you go? Is that all right? It's pathetic. As Robert Bates said earlier, it's pathetic. It's embarrassing, I think. What do you think? 03444991000. We'll go to break now. When we come back, time for a few more calls, a few more WhatsApp. No, we've done all the WhatsApp voice notes, but I'll read some more messages. And don't forget, after the 10 o'clock news, it will be Harry Cole Saves the West, and that's got that Boris Johnson interview when Harry met Boris. And you saw Jake Berry, my earlier guest, former Tory chairman, and of course now Reform UK, mate of Boris Johnson, refuting Boris Johnson's claim, ridiculous claim if you ask me, that Nigel Farage is dangerously friendly with the Russians and that somehow or other Reform UK are a threat to national security. Jake Berry saying that's nonsense. It just reveals that the Tories and Boris are scared. So that after the 10 o'clock news. Let's go to break now. See you in a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Susan sends a text here. So the new pull factor is come to the UK, carry out a bit of rape and murder, and win a free flight home and a £2,000 prize. Terrific. That's it. Well said, Susan. As I say, it's just jaw-droppingly deranged. So mad, isn't it, all of this? I think Tony in Stratford-upon-Avon is making pretty much the similar point. £2,000 is a draw factor. Come to the UK illegally, commit your favourite crime, earn 2K, get a free plane ride, and then come back again for more. Exactly. How many of these people will return? Alison says, surely the £2,000 cash cards can be cancelled when they have landed. Surely we have that capability. That would be funny, wouldn't it? There you go. As soon as you land, £2,000. Ha ha ha. Didn't work. What is? Yeah, I would just con them. Just con them. But I don't think, sadly, that is the case. This is from Suzanne. Renet Zero, thank you for your work. Isn't it almost common knowledge that dark powers have known for over 100 years how to generate free, clean energy? I don't know. I wish I knew how to generate clean energy, because then I could make a fortune, and I could do with a few quid right now. Thank you to everybody at HMRC. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for ruining my life. Here's another one. Kevin, this is Fern in Glasgow. That mega mosque is getting built in preparation for what is coming. That towns and the way that people have not realised yet. Build it and they will come. Yeah, a lot of people saying that you put that mosque there, the mega mosque, in that town, Dalton-in-Furness, and then it will attract a Muslim community. I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it probably will, won't it? So that community may feel, they say right now there's only 1% of our community are Muslims, Islamic, but that mega mosque may create in itself a kind of Muslim community around it. So that could be part of the plan, I don't know. Let's talk to Sue in London. Hello, Sue.
Hi, Kevin. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last two comments you made was exactly the comment that I'm going to be made for this tournament to some degree, but I've been going through the programme.
Yeah.
I know Cumbria,
mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say could be anticipated, allegedly, as we like to use those words.
Mm-hmm.
But this Cumbrian mosque will be in anticipation of the houses built around it for the Muslims in the area, which will grow. Hence, they won't need parking spaces because they will walk to the mosque.
Well, we don't know that, though, do we?
Yeah, well, look, I grew up in an area whereby the church, and I was brought up Catholic,
mm-hmm.
The church was the centre of the community, and it was a ritual to walk to the church in the morning. Nobody had a car. We didn't have a car. You walked. It was all part of the preparation of going to church. I don't have a problem with that, and I certainly don't have a problem with it.
Of course not. I don't have a problem with the idea of a mosque at all.
No, neither
it's just
do
where
I.
they're
Neither
putting
do
it.
I.
But I mean, we don't know that it is being built in anticipation of houses being built around it for incoming immigrants. We don't know that, do we, at all?
No, we don't. But the point I want to make is it's the change. I know Cumbria. It's about the change of scenery
Mm-hmm.
that will no longer be quintessentially a British landscape.
Yeah, well, I think. Well, I mean, this is. I mean, as I say, I don't want to overstate this, but this is what people are worrying about. It's the Islamification of Britain, if you see what I mean.
Yes, exactly. Now, the quintessential British landscape is part of our heritage and culture.
Of course it is, absolutely. The English countryside, yes.
Exactly. And now, I live rurally, and I'm fortunate whereby I'm pretty isolated, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I get any information about what's going on in this world is through you and your team, Kev. Trust me. I only know...
Well, you couldn't get a better source of information, Sue.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't have a problem with... I work with Muslims.
Nobody's got a problem with Muslims, per se. I mean,
I work with all sorts... I work in a diverse environment. However, it's a secure environment.
Right.
So these people that I work with that come from all elements of the world and everything, but they are all British citizens still.
Yeah.
And I can tell that they're patriots, and they know I'm not a racist.
Yeah, well, and I don't think, but the people, I'm not quite sure what point you're trying to get at, Sue, but the people who have been protesting, the people from Dalton and Furness have been protesting against this mosque, they insist they're not racist. They're just worried about the practicalities of it, and they don't know why they're getting a mega mosque when only 1% of their community are Islamic. They're worried about mundane things like parking,
Well, they need to read between the lines.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't want to overinterpret what's going on. Sue, I get your point, but I've got to move on because I've got to take another call. Thanks for a good call. Always good to talk to you. Let's quickly, this is from Matty, another text. Apparently, if you raise the flag, you are a nonce. That was a reference to what Jeremy Newmark at Hertsmere Council said, Labour. According to the previous clips I've watched from many hours of talk, surely this is hate speech. A custodial sentence. If they lock up Lucy Connolly for 31 months, why then did this guy get off for shouting that we're talking about the earlier the guy who attacked the Quran burner? Why did this guy get off scot-free for shouting that he wanted to kill him with a knife and walk back to his house to get it? Lucy Connolly deleted her tweet. This is, as this guy says, Matty says, effing madness. It's two-tiered. Jake Berry made no bones about it. He said this was a dark day for British justice. Definite case of favouritism, legal favouritism towards a Muslim who was essentially administering his own blasphemy laws. We don't have blasphemy laws in this country. You can burn a Quran, you can burn a Bible, you can burn any sacred trail. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's a very nice thing to do, but it's not illegal. That's all about freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Yes, indeed. Shall we read some more messages? What do we got? So Muj sent us, he says this is Mark in Northamptonshire, nickname Muj, says just abolish children in need and rename it migrants in need. And Stephen in Lincolnshire said, what did we just say? No to picking up illegal migrants in the channel, no to doctors, dentists, no to accommodation, no to taxis. Who's going to do what? No to compensation, no to lawyers, no. It has to be cheaper than yes. Well, that is very well put. You're exactly right. Well, that's what I'm talking about with this flight. We need to have the backbone to say, no, you're getting kicked out of the country because you're a rapist, because you're a murderer. And we're not giving you $2,000. We're just kicking you out. We don't seem to have any guts. And of course, we always have this recourse to human rights. All of these migrants who are successfully challenging their deportation under the one-in, one-out scheme are doing so under the terms of the European Convention on Human Rights. They are claiming they are victims of modern slavery. So we have got to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. We don't get a damn thing out of it. Not a damn thing. We can have our own Bill of Rights. We won't abrogate human rights if we leave the ECHR. The ECHR stops us making our own sovereign decisions about migrants. And unless we leave the ECHR, we will never, ever be able to solve the migrant crisis. It's just the starting block, but it has to be done before we actually begin to actually solve the migrant crisis. It is as simple as that. Towards the end of the show now, it will be Harry Cole Saves the West next after the news. You have been an amazing audience. It's been a great show tonight. I hope you found my company vaguely acceptable. I've loved yours, and I will love it again tomorrow if you tune in at 7 p.m. See you tomorrow at 7.
I must confess I was a bit bemused by the surprise that was shown by quite a lot of commentators about his speech yesterday, particularly in relation to Ukraine, because he changes his mind every 5 minutes. So, he seems to be on side for Ukraine today, but who knows where he'll be in a couple of months' time. And what was striking about his comments in that regard, of course, was he didn't say where the money was going to come from, and he's made it very clear